Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San. Chapters 701 through 720 of the previous episode. Tang San operates from the shadows to ensure Mei Gongzi passes her perilous evaluation to become Kali City's lord at the ancestral court. While Mei Gongzi confidently defeats 3 great demon kings using the techniques and the Azura sword intent Tang San imparted to her, she faces a harsher trial, securing votes from the demon emperors. Fortunately, Tang San had already secured the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's crucial vote by privately revealing the profound Azura sword intent to him. If you're able to, please support me on PayPal to help me stay active. Thank you. Now let's get back to the story of Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San audio series. Chapter 721. When the tenebrous demon emperor uttered those 3 words, the white tiger demon emperor instinctively jumped slightly on his celestial pillar. The other emperors present were all visibly shocked. A miracle had occurred once again. Yes, for Mei Gongzi this was absolutely a miracle. Standing below, watching each emperor cast their vote, Mei Gongzi's expression could only be described as incredibly complex. When the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor said he supported her, she could hardly believe her ears. The hatred she harbored for this murderer of her father was unimaginable. Though her feelings for the Peacock Great Demon King were not particularly deep, he was still her father. Not only were they connected by blood, but he had raised her with the utmost care, and he had left her absolutely everything he had. If there was anyone among the emperors present whom she hated the most, it was undoubtedly the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, without question. But even under such circumstances, the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor had chosen to support her. It was almost unbelievable. She even instinctively wondered if this was part of some scheme. Yet the truth was laid bare before her, leaving her no choice but to believe it. Moreover, from the other emperor's reaction, it appeared that they were no less shocked than she was. The subsequent support from the Sword Saint Demon Emperor was within her expectations, giving her some relief. She knew this was due to Tang San's efforts. But that made 2 votes already. It seemed gaining votes was easier than she had imagined. The Mammoth Demon Emperor's opposition brought Mei Gongzi back to reality. Of course, it was only natural. How could so many support her? But then it was the Tenebrous Demon Emperor's turn. Mei Gongzi instinctively shifted her gaze to the next emperor, her grandfather. Yet from his side she heard the words, "I agree." She turned her gaze back in shock, staring at the eternal night sovereign that had once hunted them to the ends of the earth, nearly causing Tang San's death. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't fathom why he would choose to support her. This was simply... Suddenly, a memory flashed in her mind of when she had asked Tang San, and he had shown that mysterious smile. At that time, he had confidently told her to leave the second trial to him. Could it be that he had persuaded the Tenebrous Demon Emperor as well? But how was that possible? If he had sought out the Tenebrous Demon Emperor, then he would have walked right into a trap. Forget about convincing the Emperor. He would have been lucky to even survive the encounter. So how? To the emperors, the incredulity they felt was even more intense than what Mei Gongzi experienced. From Mei Gongzi's first trial, where she faced 3 opponents, the last of whom was a seasoned Great Demon King from the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan, it was clear as daylight that the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor did not want her to succeed. Since this was the will of the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, it should naturally have been the will of the Tenebrous Demon Emperor as well. After all, their relationship was the closest among all demon emperors. Mei Gongzi did not know this, but they were well aware, centuries ago, before they became emperors, the Tenebrous Demon Emperor had been the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's protector. The Celestial Foxes lacked direct combat abilities, so when they reached the 6-tail level, some of the exceptionally gifted ones would choose a protector. These protectors were naturally selected from among the strongest beings in the Empyrean Dominion. Nearly all the strong demons were willing to become protectors of a celestial fox, for a simple reason: if they were assisted by fortune, their own future growth would be much smoother. It was under such circumstances that the Tenebrous Demon Emperor was chosen by the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, and they ended up forming the closest of bonds. He protected the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor for many years until the latter became an emperor, and in turn, he also rose to become an emperor shortly after. Now, as the Eternal Night Sovereign, He stood by the celestial fox demon emperor's side, ruling over the ancestral court. Who could have imagined that the tenebrous demon emperor, who should have followed the celestial fox demon emperor's lead, would choose to support Mei Gongzi instead? It simply made no sense. The celestial fox demon emperor was so caught off guard that he lost his composure. What? The tenebrous demon emperor turned to look at him, an apologetic expression in his eyes. I agree with her trial. What kind of power is this? The tenebrous demon emperor asked, both shocked and furious, as he stared at the golden rings of light encircling his body. He realized that he was completely immobilized. The young man before him, holding a golden trident, was slowly burning away, yet the terrifying properties of the trident had completely sealed him in place, and let alone his abilities, he couldn't even summon up his courage. You don't believe me? All right. The power of the sea god will obliterate you, and you can do nothing about it. Once you are in the afterlife, you will believe me. The Master Jura, seemingly oblivious to his body slowly turning into ashes, directed his chilling killing intent entirely at the tenebrous demon emperor. I don't believe you. These 3 words nearly escaped the tenebrous demon emperor's mouth, but in the end, he didn't dare to say them. The golden rings of light encircling him not only suppressed his abilities, but also completely restrained his divine consciousness. If the next attack from his opponent was of similar strength as this lock, he wouldn't be able to withstand it and would undoubtedly fall. So he didn't dare to gamble. He truly didn't, because his life was on the line and he could give up anything but that. Azura chuckled lightly. You could actually take a gamble, see if I really have such a powerful attack. If I don't, you might survive. The tenebrous demon emperor gritted his teeth. In the end, he had no choice. What do you want? If you don't want to take my next strike, then you will swear a blood oath. In the future, when Mei Gongzi heads to the ancestral court for her evaluation, you must support her and cast your vote in her favor. Would the tenebrous demon emperor dare to gamble with his life? Especially when compared to such a seemingly trivial condition. As memories of the past flooded his mind, the tenebrous demon emperor felt the incredulous stares of the other emperors and the disbelief of the celestial fox demon emperor. His heart couldn't help but twitch. He had never told any of the emperors about that incident. It was the absolute most humiliating thing that had ever happened in his entire life. How could he possibly bring it up? In his view, whether that little girl's evaluation succeeded or not wasn't something he alone could decide. His opinion alone wasn't that important, and a mere vote in exchange for his life was nothing major. But now, after the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor and the Sword Saint Demon Emperor had both expressed their support, everything had changed. The support from these two had made what seemed an insurmountable hurdle for Mei Gongzi begin to look somewhat climbable. So now, when the tenebrous demon emperor voiced his agreement, his heart was somewhat uneasy. But as an emperor, the constraints of a blood oath were enormous, far more so than they were for lesser demons and nymphs. His vote of approval now would free him from the blood oath, and that, to him, was the most important thing. Reason. The celestial fox demon emperor's voice was noticeably colder. The tenebrous demon emperor had already prepared his explanation and immediately said, Mei Gongzi performed excellently in the ancestral court's elite competition, even defeating my heir. It was at that time that I took notice of her. Her extraordinary talent could very well lead her to become a powerful emperor in the future, further strengthening our Empyrean dominion. Although she severely injured my descendant, causing issues with my legacy, I still approve of her. That is in line with the fair policies of the ancestral court. I hope she continues to work hard and soon becomes an emperor, fighting together with us against our enemies. The tenebrous demon emperor was actually being rather honest. The severe injury Meng Didi had suffered back then had indeed caused him deep pain, as Meng Didi was his chosen heir. Yet at the same time he felt that the endless blue sea could turn into a major threat, and he very much wanted Kali City to be a proper stronghold. Whether the sea god truly existed, he did not know, but the power that Azura wielded indeed frightened him a bit. If the sea god truly existed and had an understanding with Kali City, then the sea god's power could very well rival that of the top 3 emperors. With such a mighty figure behind Kali City, whoever ruled the city wasn't someone he wished to provoke. Of course, he believed it was more likely that the sea god did not exist, If such a powerful emperor did, the celestial fox demon emperor would have sensed it, and that would impact the fate of the entire Phelan planet. But even so, the atmosphere in the ancestral court council grew somewhat eerie following the tenebrous demon emperor's words. 3 votes in favor, 1 vote against. Yes, among the 4 demon emperors who had already voted, 3 were in favor. Who could have imagined this beforehand? Next up was the heaven-crossing, earth-piercing white tiger demon emperor, and everyone knew he would certainly vote in favor. What had originally seemed an impossible second trial now appeared to be turning into a possibility. With 4 votes already secured, who could say that further surprises wouldn't arise? Many emperors instinctively turned their gazes toward the indomitable sky-splitting demon emperor, wondering if there might be another unexpected turn with this king of the behemoth beasts. White tiger demon emperor. The celestial fox demon emperor looked toward him. The white tiger demon emperor smiled. No matter what, even if Mei Gongzi ultimately failed her trial, he was quite pleased with the current situation. He didn't know how Mei Gongzi had managed this, and he could tell from her expression that even she didn't fully understand what was happening. But was it mere coincidence? Luck? That was impossible, especially since the one opposing her was literally able to manipulate fortune. There was only one explanation. That young man, the one who had always been by her side, brought the white tiger demon emperor more than a few surprises. The young man who always seemed so calm and composed, no matter the situation. He obviously could not be inside this hall, but the white tiger demon emperor knew full well that he was around. He had even given the white tiger demon emperor a hint about the trial. Even the white tiger demon emperor was curious about how Tang San had managed it. How had he convinced so many emperors to support Mei Gongzi? It was truly unbelievable. I approve of her. The reasons are simple. She's my granddaughter, she carries the white tiger bloodline, and her strength and talent are evident to all. I don't think there's anything else to say. The white tiger demon emperor was blunt as usual. His vote, unsurprisingly, fell in favor of Mei Gongzi. 4 votes in favor, 1 against. The celestial fox demon emperor turned his gaze to the 4th in line, the sky-splitting demon emperor. The unbreakable sky-splitting demon emperor, with his towering stature and naturally imposing aura, looked somewhat surprised as he said, "Why is everyone looking at me like that? Especially you 3. By you 3, he was clearly referring to the Crystal Phoenix demon emperor, the Sword Saint demon emperor, and the Tenebrous demon emperor, who had all voted in favor despite being expected to oppose. The white tiger demon emperor chuckled. He couldn't speak up due to the rules of the council, which prevented him from influencing the choices of the other emperors, but he was clearly enjoying the situation. The sky-splitting demon emperor frowned. He raised his hand and said, "I do not approve. The reason is the same as golden mammoths. A foreign bloodline is still a foreign bloodline. To avoid unnecessary trouble, it's better not to let her become the city lord. If she truly becomes an emperor in the future, she can inherit White Tiger's city." Upon hearing this opposition, the celestial fox demon emperor's expression seemed to ease slightly. Yes, Mei Gongzi had already secured 4 votes in her favor. But with no surprises from the sky-splitting demon emperor, everything was still under the celestial fox demon emperor's control. 4 votes in favor, 2 against. There were only 8 demon emperors present, meaning that even if one of the remaining 2 voted in favor of Mei Gongzi, it wouldn't make a difference. The celestial fox demon emperor would certainly not support her, and the top-ranked Crystal Phoenix demon emperor was absent, effectively abstaining. This meant she couldn't possibly reach 6 votes. So when the sky-splitting demon emperor voiced his opposition, the outcome seemed already decided. Hearing the sky-splitting demon emperor's opposition, the white tiger demon emperor couldn't help but show a trace of surprise. Even the tenebrous demon emperor and the Crystal Phoenix demon emperor, who shouldn't have supported Mei Gongzi, had done so. Could it be that the boy hadn't managed to sway the sky-splitting demon emperor? Or had he simply set his expectations for Tang San too high? The sky-splitting demon emperor's opposition brought a slight sense of relief to the tenebrous demon emperor, who had previously voiced his support. As long as he hadn't disrupted the celestial fox demon emperor's plans, he could explain his reasoning later. The celestial fox demon emperor turned his gaze toward the celestial pillar next to him. "Undying demon emperor, it's your turn." The Undying Demon Emperor glanced at him, then turned to look at the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, who was seated at the lowest rank among the emperors. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor couldn't speak, but he nodded somewhat urgently toward him. The Undying Demon Emperor frowned, as if he were hesitating over something. Seeing this, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor couldn't help but raise an eyebrow slightly. But at this moment, even he couldn't influence the Undying Demon Emperor's decision. The man in front of him was the most powerful demon alive, especially in the absence of the Crystal Demon Emperor. His power even rivaled that of the Sunborn Nymph Emperor on the other side. Therefore, his opinion held great sway. I approve of her. I will be honest. I am doing this against my will, but I am doing it for the future of the ancestral court. As for the reason, I won't make one up, and I don't want to speak the real one, so I won't say anything. His words left the emperor stunned once again. Or rather, they had been shocked so many times today that their expressions had become almost numb. Undying chose to support her? How the hell is this possible? Even forgetting that the Phoenix race and the Peacock Demon clan were sworn enemies, Mei Gongzi had just defeated and severely injured one of his top subordinates. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor's support was strange enough, but now the Undying Demon Emperor was supporting her too? He was the sovereign of all phoenixes and needed to have his entire race's future in mind, so why? The dragons and the phoenixes had always been the most powerful within the demon clan. Though each of their clans had few members, their status had never been challenged. The current leader of the dragon race was the Crystal Demon Emperor. However, it was a mutated existence, with no offspring or direct lineage. It also did not involve itself in any actual form of leadership, so for all intents and purposes, it was nothing more than a weapon lying in wait. The Undying Demon Emperor, on the other hand, was different. As the leader of the immortal Flame Phoenix lineage and the leader of the entire Phoenix race, his status and influence within the Phoenix Demon clan were unparalleled. Even as the head of the ancestral court, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor had to show him some deference. At this moment, even the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor wanted to ask why the Undying Demon Emperor chose to support Mei Gongzi. The Crystal Demon Emperor's support was strange enough, so why would he support her too? There was no apparent reason for it. Inside a vast crimson sanctuary, a man whose body was shimmering with crystalline light stood respectfully, facing another man seated on the throne. A man whose entire being was enveloped in a blazing golden-red aura. Great uncle, after much consideration, I've decided there's something I need to report to you. Shima, you are now an emperor. You should carry yourself as one. Although by lineage I am your great uncle, within the ancestral court our statuses are equal. You don't need to report anything to me, the Undying Demon Emperor said, looking somewhat puzzled at the Crystal Demon Emperor standing below. The Crystal Demon Emperor, Lin Shima, respectfully replied, no matter the time, you are the true sovereign of our race. No matter how far I go, I will always be your descendant. Moreover, without you, I could never have become an emperor. The Undying Demon Emperor waved his hand dismissively. No need for such flattery. In truth, I didn't have high hopes for you at the start. You seized your own opportunity, gained the Crystal Majesty's approval, and finally passed the Crystal trial to become an emperor. However, your foundation is rather weak. If you want to go further in the future and raise your celestial pillar higher, you must work much harder. Yes. Lin Shima bowed deeply. Although he was now an emperor, he had never been so aware of the vast difference between himself and his great uncle, even though the latter was also an emperor. Go ahead, what is it that has made you so nervous? It concerns my personal matters. Great uncle, I've only recently learned that I have a daughter, Lin Shima said with a bitter smile. A daughter? Where did that come from? No, you know what, who cares? This is great news. As an emperor, your offspring is to be nurtured with great care. Why do you say that as if it's a problem? Do you want to send her to me for training? Lin Shima shook his head. You have already seen this daughter of mine. It's truly a long story. She's the young girl from the Peacock Demon clan, who recently won the Ancestral Court's elite tournament. Back then, when the Crystal Demon Emperor Lin Shima sought out the Undying Demon Emperor and explained Mei Gongzi's origins, the latter scolded him harshly. Such exceptional talent, yet the blood of the Peacock Demon clan had tainted it. The Undying Demon Emperor sternly rebuked him, stating that with her bloodline altered, she could no longer be considered a descendant of the Phoenix race and could not be protected. Lin Shima pleaded repeatedly, even begging the Undying Demon Emperor to help Mei Gongzi reawaken her Phoenix bloodline. However, he never received the Undying Demon Emperor's consent. Before this trial, the Crystal Demon Emperor knew that his own influence was insufficient to help Mei Gongzi succeed. After all, he was the lowest-ranked emperor. But if the Undying Demon Emperor supported her, it would be a different matter entirely. As a veteran demon emperor and the sovereign of the Phoenix race, his opinion would command respect from anyone, other emperors included. Thus, he sought out the Undying Demon Emperor once more, requesting his support for Mei Gongzi in her trial. In the end, one sentence managed to sway the Undying Demon Emperor. If the Phoenix race can produce 3 emperors, we can truly suppress the dragons to become the foremost race on the entire demon continent. The intermingling of dragons and phoenixes had been a thing since ancient times, but the rivalry between these races far surpassed the rivalry between the Phoenix race and the Peacock Demon clan. After all, the Peacock Demon clan had only ever produced one Peacock Demon Emperor, while the Dragon and Phoenix races had never been without an emperor. Currently, the dragons and phoenixes each had 2 emperors. The Dragon race had the Crystal Demon Emperor and the Tenebrous Demon Emperor, while the Phoenix race had the Undying Demon Emperor and the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor. And before Lin Shima became an emperor, the Undying Demon Emperor had been entirely suppressed by the Dragon race. Now, how could the Undying Demon Emperor not be tempted by the opportunity to have 3 emperors in one race, especially coupled with the Crystal Demon Emperor's impending death? In the end, the Undying Demon Emperor stated that if Mei Gongzi could truly defeat Qiao Yue, he would consider bringing her back into the Phoenix race in the near future to help her reignite her Phoenix bloodline. After all, even with the blood being cleansed, the essence couldn't be entirely washed away, otherwise she would have died. Therefore, there had to be some trace of the Phoenix bloodline within Mei Gongzi. The only question was how much of it could be awakened. Mei Gongzi's performance in the previous battles had undoubtedly struck a chord with the Undying Demon Emperor. Her talent far surpassed that of Lin Shima in his youth. Watching her, the Undying Demon Emperor even felt as if he was seeing a younger version of himself. With such talent, coupled with the Phoenix blood in her veins, how could the Undying Demon Emperor not be moved? This is why, in the end, he chose to support Mei Gongzi in her trial. If he established the connection with her and awakened her Phoenix blood, and she continued to lead the Peacock Demon clan, wouldn't it effectively mean that the Peacock Demon clan was being ruled by the Phoenix race? The more he thought about it, the more tempting the idea was to the Undying Demon Emperor. As for what the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor might think, while other emperors might be more cautious, it didn't matter much to the Undying Demon Emperor. In terms of status, he was certainly not inferior to the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor within the Empyrean Dominion, and after all, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor couldn't possibly fight him over it. 5 votes in favor, 2 against. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor finally furrowed his brow, no longer as calm and composed as before. The support of the Undying Demon Emperor had a significant impact. It could even sway the previously opposed Mammoth Demon Emperor and Sky-Splitting Demon Emperor. In fact, his endorsement could potentially steer the entire Ancestral Court Council. Mei Gongzi stood below, feeling almost numb. Those who should have been the least likely to support her had all chosen to do so. At this moment, she really wanted to rush back to Tang San and beat him up until he confessed how he had managed to pull this off. However, even with 5 votes in her favor, it wasn't enough. "I do not approve," the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor said in a deep voice. "My opposition is based on several factors. First and foremost is the issue of her bloodline. The fact that she possesses human blood is the main reason she should not become a city lord. There is no precedent for this in the Ancestral Court, and for good reason. If a city lord with human blood were to emerge, it would undoubtedly have a significant impact on the millions of humans across the demon continent. Among humans, there are already voices of rebellion. Though they lack innate talent, their learning ability is strong, and their intelligence is high. Just look at this girl before us. Despite her human bloodline, she has cultivated the demonic god transformation and honed her abilities to an incredible level. In the future, if humanity rises with her help, It will pose a great threat to the entire demon continent. Secondly, after becoming the acting lord of Kali City, she has, according to our information, established a human settlement. She has given the humans in Kali City a new status, she has shown a different attitude toward humans, and she has thus caused a massive exodus of humans from other cities. Thirdly, as you all know, I command destiny, and I have seen incredible destiny within her. This destiny, as I perceive it, has the potential to influence the future of the demon continent and the ancestral court. I cannot truly peer into the secrets of heaven and foresee the future, but as a descendant of the Peacock Demon clan, she has the ability to do so. Just because she hasn't done so yet doesn't mean she won't in the future. The potential variables are too great. If she is given enough power, her rise will be unstoppable. What worries me most is what position humanity will occupy if she becomes an emperor. How much influence will she have on the ancestral court? With these issues in mind, I do not approve of her. The White Tiger Demon Emperor could no longer hold back. You give so many reasons to oppose her, but no matter what, even if she becomes an emperor in the future, she will still be just one person. The ancestral court currently has 16 emperors. Are you saying that a single emperor can influence the overall situation of the ancestral court? Isn't that just alarmism? The celestial fox demon emperor's gaze remained calm. Alarmism? That might have been true until just a few minutes ago. But consider this very vote. Could any of you have predicted the outcome? I won't ask her supporters for their true reasons, but look at the greater picture and tell me, is this not destiny at work? What seemed impossible just this morning has now occurred. And if it can happen this time, what about in the future? What if something unbelievable happens again, and this time it impacts the entire ancestral court or maybe even the future of all demons and nymphs? We cannot and will not take that chance. One reason I keep fortune under my control is that miracles of this sort must not be allowed to happen. Listening to his words, the other emperors couldn't help but show expressions of contemplation. They had to admit that the celestial fox demon emperor had a point. Today's situation was indeed too incredible. This outcome was far outside of their predictions. In addition, the celestial fox demon emperor had been in charge of the ancestral court for many years, and his abilities gave him utmost authority in such matters. Naturally, his words carried significant weight. Seeing that the emperors chose to remain silent, the celestial fox demon emperor calmly said, "The vote stands at 5 in favor, 3 against, and 1 abstention. With this, she cannot pass the second trial. The evaluation." As he spoke, a somewhat ethereal voice suddenly rang out. "Wait, who said I abstained?" Every emperor present instinctively straightened their posture the moment this voice was heard. Simultaneously, they all showed expressions of shock. The celestial fox demon emperor shivered slightly. He knew that things were finally spiraling out of control. The enormous celestial pillar standing over 500 meters tall suddenly lit up. Crystalline light flickered, giving the entire ancestral court council an almost surreal atmosphere, and making the emperors present feel a sense of unreality. A somewhat ethereal figure was projected in free fall, landing atop the celestial pillar. As this figure appeared, the emperors present all simultaneously bowed slightly in that direction, a gesture of respect for the mightiest among them. Yes, the pillar that lit up belonged to none other than the strongest being on the entire Phelan planet, the one who was, at least in name, the true leader of the ancestral court, the omnipotent crystal demon emperor. The ethereal figure was somewhat indistinct, but the emperors present were all intimately familiar with the aura it exuded. No one could impersonate the crystal demon emperor. The celestial pillar beneath it was the undeniable proof. Why can't we let a young girl pass her damn evaluation? The ancestral court council doesn't have enough women. Celestial Fox, you heard the white tiger, stop with the alarmism. I don't believe that a young girl could cause the turmoil you're talking about. If you have concrete evidence, present it. If not, shut up. That said, I approve of her. My reasoning is simple. The Empyrean Dominion needs a feminine touch. That's all from me, goodbye. With those words, the crystalline light shimmered, transforming into a dazzling streak that soared across the sky. Instantly, the entire Empyrean Dominion Council fell into complete silence. Mei Gongzi stared blankly in the direction where the Crystal Demon Emperor had vanished. Was this really the omnipotent Crystal Demon Emperor? No, the one who was truly omnipotent was that little bastard Tang San. You really are omnipotent. You actually made it happen. I don't know how you did it, but you did it. None of this could be a coincidence. It was simply impossible. Even though Mei Gongzi still didn't know how Tang San had managed it, she was absolutely certain that everything that had transpired here was connected to him. Of 9 demon emperors, 6 approved of her. And among them were even the first-ranked and third-ranked. How utterly incredible! Even under the control of the celestial fox demon emperor, the master of destiny, her destiny had ultimately escaped his grasp. There was no need for the celestial fox demon emperor to announce it. The result was already obvious. She had passed the second trial, the crystal sacred mountain. Before coming to the ancestral court, Tang San had already decided that he needed to climb at least 4 sacred mountains. However, after arriving, he carefully considered and decided that he needed to ascend this 5th mountain, the one before him now. It was only when he found himself before this mountain that he hesitated for a long time, finally still deciding to climb. He wasn't sure if, after climbing, he would achieve what he wanted or face a terrifying outcome that might force him into making different choices. The crystal sacred mountain was as formidable as ever. Tang San clearly remembered the immense difficulty he had faced the last time he had climbed it. Every time he used a bloodline ability during the climb, the mountain would create a duplicate that could use the same ability. It started with 1 duplicate, then 3, and eventually 9. Many strong figures from both the demon and the nymph races had attempted to climb the crystal sacred mountain. The only task here was to overcome oneself, making it an excellent place for training and trials. However, very few had ever climbed beyond the 2nd level. Defeating even 1 single duplicate was a significant challenge for most, as the duplicates here could utilize one's abilities to their utmost potential, often even stronger than the original. Facing 3 of such duplicates was almost impossible, and 99% of climbers were stopped at this stage. Thus, when Tang San had reached the summit, there had been no climbers behind him, no one even within sight. This time, as he returned, Tang San did not climb the mountain step by step as he had before. He could have done so and had enough confidence to succeed. After all, according to his understanding of the Crystal Demon Emperor, despite its terrifying replication ability, it could only replicate 3, at most 4 abilities at once. Tang San, however, possessed 8 abilities granted by his bloodline imprints. The Crystal Demon Emperor could not possibly replicate them all simultaneously. Therefore, even if he had to face 9 of himself, Tang San was confident he could prevail. The problem was that Tang San's body now felt like a balloon stretched to its limit. Any slight touch could make it pop, leading to drastic consequences. Thus, he took out the crystal mirror, the token of the crystal sacred mountain. With this token, he could simulate 1 ability for a single use, but more importantly, it symbolized the Crystal Demon Emperor's approval. Tang San held the crystal mirror as he ascended slowly. As expected, no duplicates appeared, and no illusions manifested. He was able to climb step by step without any obstacles. Without any hindrance, this climb offered Tang San an entirely different experience. The stairs beneath his feet were crystal clear, reflecting his image and everything around him. It was as if this place was a starry cosmos, capable of reflecting all things. The Crystal Demon Emperor was the only crystal dragon in history, so it was evident that it had personally constructed the Crystal Sacred Mountain and the Crystal Palace. Having lived for 3,000 years, this most powerful emperor was truly extraordinary. Even with Tang San's deep foundation, he seemed to gain some insights here. In his previous life, he had a companion named Oscar, a food-type spirit master with the ability to make sausages. These sausages had various effects. Some could restore energy, others could detoxify, and one even gave people wings for a short time. However, none of these gave the sausage factory any significant combat ability. In pursuit of combat power, Oscar ventured far into the northern regions and eventually gained a powerful ability called the Clone Mirror Sausage 1, which allowed him to mirror the abilities of his opponents to a certain extent. If he wanted to use another ability, he had to replicate it first, and he could only harness up to 80% of the original power. As a result, he could use a wide variety of abilities in battle, but he was never the strongest combatant. In this world, the strongest being on the demon continent, the Crystal Demon Emperor, possessed this very ability, but its power was beyond comparison. It could replicate 100% of his opponent's power, far surpassing Oscar's clone mirror sausage. Moreover, it could not only replicate several abilities simultaneously, but also wield them at once. This ultimately made it the strongest demon emperor. How were the others supposed to defeat it? But where did its replication ability come from? Did it have something to do with space or time? Perhaps it was a combination of both? As Tang San continued his ascent, he pondered these questions, seemingly forgetting his original purpose. Gradually, he reached the halfway point of the mountain. As he climbed, a voice suddenly rang out. "Why have you come?" The familiar voice and aura of the Crystal Demon Emperor seemed to envelop the entire Crystal Sacred Mountain instantly. Tang San did not stop his ascent. He simply said, "Your Majesty, I wish to meet with you to discuss something." "Leave. I have no time to see you." The Crystal Demon Emperor's voice was noticeably cold. Tang San smiled calmly and said, "What if I insist on seeing you? Do you wish to die?" The Crystal Demon Emperor's voice now carried a distinct note of anger. Tang San shook his head and replied, "Precisely because I don't want to die, I must see you. This concerns not only my safety but yours as well. I don't want to die, and I believe that someone who has lived as long as you also doesn't want to die, correct?" The Crystal Demon Emperor fell silent for a moment, then coldly said, "I don't know what you're talking about. But if you insist on coming up and you don't convince me, the price to pay will be something you cannot bear." "Very well," Tang San replied with a smile, continuing his ascent as if he hadn't heard the Crystal Demon Emperor's warning at all. Finally, as he neared the summit, the thick fog gradually dispersed, revealing a clear view ahead. The magnificent Crystal Palace, shimmering with radiant crystal light, once again came into Tang San's sight. Even though this wasn't the first time he'd seen the Crystal Palace, Tang San still felt a sense of enchantment. The palace was so beautiful that even in his previous life in the Divine Realm, he had never seen such a resplendent structure. But then again, although he admired it, he didn't particularly enjoy such splendor. For himself, he preferred the pastoral beauty of picking chrysanthemums by the eastern fence and leisurely gazing at the southern mountains. Living in seclusion with his beloved in a life-filled forest, occasionally climbing to the mountain peaks to look out into the distance, was what he truly desired. At last, after crossing the final step, Tang San stood before the Crystal Palace. The doors of the Crystal Palace slowly opened, and the Crystal Demon Emperor's icy voice rang out once more. "Come in." "All right." Tang San responded without a hint of fear and boldly stepped forward into the Crystal Palace. Entering the palace felt like stepping into a surreal world where everything was made of crystal, each surface acting like a mirror reflecting everything. As he entered, Tang San immediately saw and sensed countless versions of himself. He was surrounded by himself on all sides, and each reflection was so real that it made him feel a bit dizzy, even uncertain which one was truly him. Tang San slowly closed his eyes, a serene smile on his face, and stood there motionless. "Are you afraid to open your eyes?" the voice of the Crystal Demon Emperor echoed. Tang San shook his head and replied, "It's not that I'm afraid, but rather that I don't want to. You should be just as aware as I am of the state I'm in. I'm on the verge of either exploding or collapsing at any moment. Do you really want to witness that? If I try to break through this mirror domain, my power will inevitably erupt, and uncontrollable situations will naturally follow. Or perhaps you don't want your true self to be reborn, and instead wish to continue your reign here. Unfortunately, you won't be able to achieve that either. While nothing may be noticed in the short term, as time passes and the truth is revealed, your strength as a duplicate will be insufficient, and everything will be exposed. At that point, there will be no crystal left in this world. Isn't that right, fake Crystal Demon Emperor? I don't know what you're talking about. Is provoking me repeatedly today your true purpose?" The Crystal Demon Emperor's voice remained cold and unwavering. Tang San shook his head again and said, "Of course not. I'm here to make a deal with you, or rather to seek your help. After all, our fates are already intertwined. Stop beating around the bush. What do you want? Speak. I am now at the most critical moment. I'm about to undergo my tribulation. If I'm not mistaken, you should be able to sense that my power doesn't entirely belong to this world. That's probably why you chose me, right?" But I must tell you that the tribulation I am about to face will be an unprecedented and terrifying existence in this plane. It's the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation. I believe you've never even heard of it, but I must tell you that this is real, and it will be unimaginably terrifying. Even I don't know what will happen. So if you still plan to treat me as a cocoon, preparing to break out and be reborn, I'm afraid you'll be destroyed along with me. Only by cooperating sincerely with all our efforts can we hope to overcome this tribulation and achieve a new life together. I don't understand what you're saying, the Crystal Demon Emperor replied, this time with a hint of impatience. Tang San sighed softly. Must I say it out so clearly? Or do you think I'm not smart enough to understand after all this time and everything that's happened? You think I can't see what state you're in? I've already pointed it out, your fake majesty. The Crystal Demon Emperor fell silent. But Tang San continued speaking, as if to himself. From the very beginning I had some doubts, because your actions were simply too strange. When I first climbed the Crystal Sacred Mountain, my initial impression of you was that you weren't as powerful as you should have been. Believe me, when it comes to sensing strength, I am better than any emperor in this plane. For the strongest being of the current age, the one known as the Omnipotent, to not seem strong enough, what was that about? Although my own strength wasn't particularly great at that time, I trust my instincts. Then you gave me that crystal egg, telling me to carry it without any further instructions on what to do with it. But when Crystalline hatched, she merged with my body, taking up one of my bloodline imprint slots. And that was when I knew something was off. Moreover, whenever I was in grave danger, Crystalline was there to help me, aiding me through crises. She hatched in the Hell Garden, absorbing vast amounts of fortune energy, and even guided me to the Heaven Garden. All of this was arranged by the Crystal Demon Emperor, wasn't it? The Crystal Demon Emperor is already dead, right? Or rather, she isn't truly dead but chose a special way to prepare for her rebirth. And the one she chose to facilitate that rebirth was me. I'm the vessel for her rebirth. As for you, you're just a fake. Well, maybe I should be more polite, you're a clone. Still not convinced? Let me tell you more about you. The Crystal Demon Emperor has lived for over 3,000 years. She knew that her life was nearing its end, but she was unwilling to accept that. So what did she do? She devised a plan. She could replicate almost every ability, so why not replicate herself? I imagine she must have tried many times, likely failing often. But in the end she succeeded to some extent, and you yourself are one of her successful attempts. Yet as a duplicate, you don't possess all of her power, nor can you bear the full extent of her original strength. So as it turns out, you are not fully successful. The one that is actually a successful duplicate is Crystalline. The Crystal Demon Emperor's power was simply too immense, so even a duplicate couldn't bear all of her original strength. Therefore, she had to seal her power, releasing it gradually. Each time the duplicate's capacity to withstand increased, a bit more power was released. Ultimately, when the duplicate fully matured, she could truly be reborn. Am I wrong? In the end, she didn't choose you but Crystalline instead. She realized that it was impossible to create a body that could bear her power, so what could she do? She had to create a body that could evolve by itself. So it had to start from an egg, just like she did when she was born 3,000 years ago. That's why Crystalline has been with me, slowly absorbing the energy I provide. She hasn't absorbed much because she is not actually accumulating energy to cultivate the way normal beings do. She is simply improving her body in order to grow strong enough to withstand her own sealed power. When I eventually break through to godhood, Crystalline will be able to take advantage of that moment to drain all my foundation, allowing herself to take a massive step forward and finally stand at godhood again. After enduring my tribulation, she would attain godhood, with no danger to herself. She must have determined that my foundation is even better than hers was, and by being reborn through me, she might even end up stronger than before. That's why she chose me. After all, I'm the one who could defeat 9 duplicates. In fact, I am fairly sure that you set up the trial on the Crystal Sacred Mountain to select a host for her, someone with extraordinary talent. You've been waiting for such a host to appear, and I am the one you've been waiting for. Perhaps even better than you imagined, Crystalline has been with me, growing as I grew. She seems to be completely unconscious, but in reality she's just taking a little nap. When I was in danger, she would come out to help me as much as possible. For example, when I developed the polar luck domain, that was with her help. She even helped me hide it from the celestial fox demon emperor, preventing him from noticing it. After all, he would never want to see an absolute powerhouse like her be reborn, right? Tang San spoke at length, but the so-called duplicate crystal demon emperor remained silent. Tang San also maintained his silence, keeping his eyes closed. In this state, he could maintain his singular focus and avoid being influenced by the mirror domain. When he first entered, he sensed that even his divine consciousness could be tainted here. A single misstep could lead to being controlled by the mirror images. Although he had confidence in his divine consciousness, he wasn't willing to take that risk now. Finally, the crystal demon emperor sighed. Do you understand the risks of knowing too much? Tang San sighed as well. Why, of course. Knowing too much can indeed be a bad thing. That's why, even though I long since figured out most of these things, I never actually tried to do anything to Crystalline. After all, no matter how weakened she is still the true reincarnation of the Crystal Demon Emperor. Moreover, while she has been using me, haven't I also been using her as my trump card? And now it's time for that card to be played. The reason I came this time is to have an open and honest discussion with you. Acting in a way that benefits one side while harming the other won't help us survive this crisis, much less gain the greatest benefits. Only by working together can we overcome the challenge and achieve an optimal outcome. You seem very confident in yourself, the Crystal Demon Emperor said calmly. I don't have much confidence in whether I can get through this ordeal. After all, even if you're willing to help me, it won't be easy to succeed. But I'm confident in my judgment. If you miss this opportunity, the real Crystal Demon Emperor may never have another chance. Since this carefully crafted duplicate has already been reborn, I assume there's no way to start over. You can always shoot an arrow, but you can never draw back one you've shot. So cooperating with each other is the best course of action. Therefore, the first thing you must do is abandon the idea of destroying me to achieve rebirth. That's the foundation of our cooperation. At that moment, a soft voice suddenly spoke from within Tang San's dantian. I must say, Daddy, you're incredibly smart. Smarter than we ever imagined. You truly are a being from another world. Tang San finally opened his eyes, and a beam of crystal light separated from his body, transforming into the figure of a young girl who looked to be about 10 years old. She was incredibly beautiful, with a head of pale blue hair that shimmered with a crystalline luster. Her skin appeared almost translucent, and her delicate face carried an expression of helplessness that didn't match her apparent age, though it was accompanied by a faint smile. Tang San looked at her and smiled as well. My dear daughter, you've grown so quickly. Seeing you reminds me of my daughter from my past life. She was a particularly warm-hearted girl. Crystalline chuckled. What, are you saying I'm not warm enough? Well, to be fair, trying to kill my own father isn't exactly warm, is it? But thank you for hatching me. You've indeed given me many different experiences, making me feel all sorts of strange things, though they seem to be quite helpful to me. As the light flickered, the Crystal Demon Emperor that Tang San had previously seen appeared out of thin air, standing beside Crystalline. He didn't speak, simply looked at Crystalline with a furrowed brow. Crystalline glanced at him and said, You've shown too many flaws, especially in terms of your aura. You were reluctant to release my true aura, which made him notice something was off from the very beginning. The duplicate Crystal Demon Emperor frowned and said, The power you left me was limited, and each use depletes it further. Once too much is consumed, there won't be enough to sustain my existence, so who will handle your business? Who could have imagined that a teenage boy would be so clever? Crystalline sighed. What teenage boy? He's probably many years older than me. You can't judge him by ordinary standards. So it's not your fault. I misjudged him as well. Tang San just smiled at them, not in a hurry to speak. Well then, let's have an open and honest discussion, Crystalline said with a smile. Many of your guesses are correct or close enough. My situation is indeed quite bad. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken such risks. In fact, the entire demon continent is in a dire state. I've seen some very frightening signs. If not for that, death wouldn't mean much to someone who's lived for 3,000 years. I've long since grown weary of this world. With the strength of my divine consciousness, even if my body perished, my consciousness could merge with this plane, becoming part of it, or leave it altogether to roam the universe. Either would be an acceptable outcome for me. But with things being as they are, I can't die just yet. As she spoke, Crystalline's youthful face turned serious. Tang San nodded. I'd like to hear more. Crystalline sighed. Haven't you already sensed some of it? This plane is currently in a state of great disharmony. And it's not a natural state but an artificial one, caused by the beings of this plane. The apparent splendor hides enormous risks. I only recently confirmed it myself. Tang San's eyes narrowed slightly as he asked, Did you confirm this in the Hell Garden? A flash of light lit up Crystalline's eyes. You are indeed formidable. Yes, that's correct. Tang San nodded. Then I understand what you sensed. I think this should be enough to serve as the foundation for our cooperation. Our goals are aligned. Crystalline shook her head, however. Originally, I was willing to cooperate with you. But over the past period, as I've been following you and observing everything that has happened to you, I think otherwise. You're simply too powerful beyond what I imagined. You told your little girlfriend that you were once something called a god king. Maybe she didn't fully believe you, but I do. There's no other explanation for the myriad abilities you possess, especially that terrifying transcendent divine artifact that even makes me feel fear. You really did come from a divine realm and you really were a god king. If someone like you were to regain his former cultivation, wouldn't that be inviting a wolf into the house? In fact, wouldn't you be even more terrifying than that other guy? He is just trying to reach that level through selfish means, but you're different. If you were to truly restore your cultivation, would you not be capable of completely destroying our plane? I am inclined to believe you would be. So tell me, how can I dare to cooperate with you? Tang San narrowed his eyes slightly and asked, After reaching the pinnacle of this world, have you also been able to sense some of this plane's will? Crystalline hadn't expected Tang San to suddenly change the topic at this moment, but she still nodded instinctively and replied in a serious tone. Yes, I can sense some of it. That makes things quite easy. The closer you get to this plane's limits, the more you can sense the plane's true essence, which aligns with my assessment. So you don't need to worry about the things you just mentioned. Because if I couldn't resolve this issue, do you think this plane would allow me to regain my cultivation? To put it simply, the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing calamity I mentioned earlier is a tribulation that is in theory impossible to overcome. I've never seen it myself. I've only heard of it. This tribulation can only appear if the entire plane's power is concentrated to utterly destroy something. So, if I can't gain the plane's approval, I won't even have a chance. But if I can gain the plane's approval, it means the plane doesn't wish to destroy me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Crystalline asked in surprise. Are you saying that the plane will approve of you becoming a god? Tang San nodded and said, If I can truly achieve godhood in this plane, it can only happen because the plane itself approves of it. There is no other possibility. My power is ridiculously great for my level, but compared to the plane itself, I'm nothing more than an ant. Crushing me wouldn't be difficult. Crystalline frowned. But I can't think of any reason why the plane would allow you to become a god. Tang San retorted, Since you can't think of a reason, why do you keep following me? If I fail the tribulation, wouldn't you be destroyed along with me? Crystalline smiled bitterly. That's why I'm actually more anxious than you. Who put me on this pirate ship? When I merged with you back then, my aura became deeply linked to yours. That is why I can absorb your internal energy to help me grow, and use your polar luck domain to completely hide the changes in my rebirth fortune. So even the celestial fox demon emperor can't sense it. But I can't break away from you. Only after becoming a god can I separate myself. My original plan was to trigger my own tribulation right after you started yours, and let you endure the brunt of the lightning while I achieved godhood and escaped. But after seeing the level of your girlfriend's tribulation, I realized it had been the dumbest idea of my life. My chances of success are much smaller than hers because the tribulation you face will undoubtedly be much stronger. But I have no other choice now. I've made my decision and I can only take the risk. Anyway, that's all from me. Now that you know everything, do you have a way to succeed in the tribulation? Tang San shrugged. No one can guarantee that, but if you're willing to cooperate with me, I can increase my chances of success by at least 30%. Crystalline took a deep breath and said, If the plane acknowledges you during your tribulation and gives you a chance to survive, then of course I'll cooperate with you, because that would mean you're beneficial to the plane and not harmful. Otherwise, you're doomed. Tang San nodded. All right, that settles it. In that case, I have no problem telling you why I came to this plane. I was once a god king in my own divine realm. My plane is still doing well, and if it weren't for extraordinary circumstances, I wouldn't have reincarnated and come here. The reason is that my wife encountered a problem, died, and was reborn in this plane. I followed her, but even though I also technically died, I secured the memories of my past life, hence my abilities. Now I've found her, and my ultimate goal is to take her back, to return to our previous world, to our family and friends. Therefore, I have no interest in destroying or devouring this plane. I'm even willing to help this plane. That's the foundation of our cooperation. Crystalline looked at him deeply and said, Is it that little girlfriend of yours? Yes, she is my everything. That's why I must become a god, to protect her and eventually take her away with me. Crystalline took a deep breath and asked, What do you need me to do? There are mainly two things I need your cooperation with. Don't worry. I'm not asking you to withstand the tribulation for me. The tribulation that belongs to me will naturally be borne by me. And I believe that when you accompany me through the tribulation, the benefits you gain will be far greater than what your original self experienced when she underwent her tribulation to become a god. Crystalline nodded. Go ahead then. She had no doubt about Tang San's words. She had been following Tang San during this time, sensing the creation of his transcendent bloodline, and witnessing how he helped Mei Gongzi pass her tribulation. Moreover, when Tang San intimidated the sea beasts, she felt the terror of the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing calamity for the first time. If it weren't for Tang San offering a glimmer of hope now, she would have already felt hopeless. The first thing I need you to do is go to the council hall for Mei Gongzi's second trial. Cast a vote in her favor and help her pass. Crystalline turned her head to look at the duplicate. When the time comes, go and don't hold back your aura. You must intimidate them. If I can successfully go through the tribulation with him, you can also exist independently. Then you can consolidate your divine consciousness and everything will be fine. I will return to my previous peak level in no more than 20 years. The duplicate nodded. All right. Tang San said. As for the second thing, it's even more crucial. It directly relates to the success or failure of our tribulation, and you will need to. Mei Gongzi, of course, had no idea what had happened when Tang San climbed the crystal sacred mountain, but she knew that she had officially passed the second stage of her evaluation. Facing the incredulous gazes of all the emperors, Mei Gongzi herself felt an even greater sense of shock in her heart. She could clearly tell that behind her passing score, an invisible hand was manipulating and strategizing. Even someone as powerful as the celestial fox demon emperor had lost this time. Tang San, no big brother, you're truly incredible. But will I be able to pass the final assessment? The expression on the celestial fox demon emperor's face was no longer calm but rather clouded. Although the crystal demon emperor had only appeared briefly before leaving, that brief moment had clearly shaken his authority, causing even the golden mammoth demon emperor and sky-splitting demon emperor, who had previously voted against, to show signs of change. The crystal demon emperor was the leader of the ancestral court just in name. The de facto leader was the celestial fox demon emperor. What was not just in name, however, was her title as the absolute strongest. No one could ignore the crystal demon emperor's opinion. Her reputation had been earned through sheer power. Most of the emperors in the hall had been utterly crushed by her at some point. They had truly been beaten into submission. Of course, younger emperors like the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor weren't included in this. They simply didn't command enough respect to be personally trounced by the Crystal Demon Emperor. Mei Gongzi, you have passed the second trial. Next is the third. You will undergo the ancestral court's baptism. After this baptism, you will officially become the Lord of Kali City. The celestial fox demon emperor's voice seemed calm, but it was noticeably different from how it had been at the start. The ancestral court's third assessment was different from the first two. To be precise, the first two assessments were more about testing the city lord candidate, while the third was more about bestowing benefits upon them. The baptism of the ancestral courts could only begin after receiving the approval of the emperors. During this process, the lord's body and divine consciousness would be cleansed, infused with the ancestral court's aura and power, unlocking greater potential. It was a benefit granted by the combined power of the celestial pillars. In a way, after passing the first two stages, the evaluation was basically complete. The final stage was more about receiving the benefits and going through the formalities, after which the position of City Lord would be publicly conferred, and that was that. However, after hearing the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's words, Mei Gongxi's expression became serious. She clearly remembered Tang San's expression when he spoke to her about the third stage. For other City Lord candidates, this was just a formality. In fact, it was a gift rather than a test. But for Mei Gongxi, it was far from that. This stage was actually the most dangerous one for her, because the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was in complete control. Only this Master of Destiny could mobilize the will of the Ancestral Court, or rather, what might be called the will of the ancestors. Not even the Crystal Demon Emperor could interfere with this. Even though it was under the watchful eyes of many emperors, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was the Master of Destiny. Whatever he intended to do would likely be imperceptible to others, since they couldn't see the flow of fortune. That was why Tang San had warned Mei Gongxi that she had to be extremely careful at this stage, and not let herself get swept into it, no matter what. It was the most dangerous of all, and it was also the time for him to take action. Thus, when Mei Gongxi heard the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor announce that the third trial was about to begin, she instinctively tensed up, readying herself. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's gaze swept over the other emperors, and with a wave of his hand, all the celestial pillars within the council hall began to shine. Each celestial pillar had different colors, glowed with different hues, and emitted different auras. The celestial pillars with emperors seated atop them shone more brightly, but even those without emperors still emitted a faint aura. These were the auras left behind by the emperors of past generations. This so-called will of the Ancestral Court was the collective will of all the emperors, a manifestation of their contributions to the Ancestral Court. At this moment, under the guidance of the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, the energy within the council hall began to surge violently, growing increasingly dense. The White Tiger Demon Emperor and the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor focused their attention on the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor. They understood that right now, everything was under his control, and if he had any tricks up his sleeve, it would be difficult to detect. Therefore, they remained vigilant, ready to act without hesitation if the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor did anything suspicious. Even so, they relaxed somewhat. The appearance and approval of the Crystal Demon Emperor had practically sealed Mei Gongxi's position as the Lord of Kali City. After all, in the Ancestral Court, there was no one who would dare defy the will of the Crystal Demon Emperor. A faint smile appeared on the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's face. He seemed to have fully regained his composure. The energy rising within the council hall began to swirl. Colorful bands of light began to appear around Mei Gongxi. These were the energies of the Ancestral Court's will, a mixture of various forces. As these energies passed through her body, a portion naturally began to merge into her, allowing her to absorb it. The previous battles and clashes had taken a significant toll on Mei Gongxi, but as the baptism of the Ancestral Court's will began, she was surprised to feel her previous exhaustion rapidly fading away. Even her divine consciousness seemed to be quickly improving and rejuvenating through the process. This made her feel better than she ever had before. Is this strengthening me? Mei Gongxi couldn't help but feel a bit puzzled. Could it be that the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor has truly given up on suppressing me, and is genuinely allowing me to become the Lord of Kali City? This thought flashed through her mind, but in the next instant she became alert. Without any hesitation, she closed her eyes. Her consciousness immediately dove into her sea of consciousness, where she used her divine consciousness to tap into the sword intent of the Azura sword. It was like plucking the string of a zither, producing a crisp sound that only she could hear. The moment the buzzing sound echoed, Mei Gongxi's entire body trembled, and her divine consciousness was instantly shaken, causing the colorful bands of light around her to momentarily slow down. In that instant, Mei Gongxi suddenly noticed something unusual. Even as the sword intent of the Azura sword rippled through her sea of consciousness, the energy from the colorful bands of light continued to merge with her divine consciousness. That's right, the process was ongoing. The same was true for her bloodline power. It was also absorbing that energy. In other words, even if she didn't actively absorb it, the will of the Ancestral Court passing through her would still continue to merge into her body, becoming part of her power.
Mei Gongxi's pupils contracted.
She was starting to understand what the celestial fox demon emperor was trying to do. Tang San sat cross-legged in silence on a large azure flower that was emitting a black and white halo. The flower swayed gently but did not tilt to either side, as if Tang San's weight was completely negligible. Right in front of this large flower was that pure white world, the heaven within hell. Tang San had been meditating here for a long time, silently waiting for the critical moment to arrive. Suddenly, his divine consciousness quaked violently, and he instantly opened his eyes. An intense buzzing echoed in his mind, and Tang San's gaze immediately became focused and stern. He knew that his time to act had come. From here on, he couldn't afford a single mistake. Any slip-up would mean death for him and Mei Gongzi. He had anticipated that Mei Gongzi would lose contact with him once deep inside the ancestral court. That was why they had agreed from the start that when Mei Gongzi reached her final trial or encountered any life-threatening danger, she would use her divine consciousness to trigger the sword intent of the Azura sword. The Azura sword was the strongest link between them, as it was a transcendent divine artifact and it was very close to both of them. Although it had fully merged with Mei Gongzi's divine consciousness, Tang San could still sense it immediately whenever she intentionally activated it. While he couldn't clearly perceive her intentions, the signal alone was enough for him. He sprang to his feet and took a single step into the void. That step took him across the boundary between hell and paradise, and he found himself in the heaven garden. He immediately went to the now familiar massive flower filled with large lotus seeds. Immediately, Tang San felt an overwhelming surge of fortune rushing toward him. His polar luck domain activated on its own, absorbing the aura of fortune and merging it into his discerning eye of heaven. Behind Tang San, a massive vertical eye gradually emerged, accompanied by the flickering halo of a celestial fox with 6 tails. This was the current state of his discerning eye of heaven, at the 9th order but not yet at its peak. At this moment, as it absorbed the good fortune around, its level began to rise rapidly. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Tang San's mouth as he sat down cross-legged on the spot, his eyes glowing with intense light. He had waited a long time for this day. If he could pass this trial, then he would truly be free to soar like a bird in the sky or a fish in the sea. Any threats to his or Mei Gongzi's lives would be exceedingly difficult from then on. His internal energy began circulating on its own, causing the various bloodline imprints in his dantian to light up one by one. At the forefront was still the golden armor transformation, firmly seated in center position. Next was the discerning eye of heaven. Although it wasn't at the peak of the 9th order, its position as the second was rock solid, especially as it absorbed the power of fortune that made it shine more brilliantly than ever. Next came the Peacock Demon, Lion Tiger, Dragon Rock, Blue Adamant Emperor, Chronocroc, and finally Crystalline. Each imprint radiated brilliant light. Relatively speaking, only the Chronocroc one was somewhat weaker because it was a second-tier bloodline. Aside from these 8, there was still one vacant spot. This empty spot emitted a faint glow, symbolizing its incompleteness. But at that moment, from within Tang San's dantian, a mass of golden red light was drawn forth, moving directly toward that final vacant imprint. Yes, the time had come. Tang San was about to introduce a 9th imprint. He intended to face his most challenging moment in absolute peak state. He hadn't dared to do it before, fearing that the energy burst would trigger an instant tribulation, but now, he could no longer afford to hold back, and neither did he want to hold back. With the Heaven Garden's concealment and with so much power of fortune around him, the plane wouldn't detect his actions for a little while, making this the perfect time to take that final leap. The golden red orb of light consolidated into an imprint, and in the next moment, the imprint erupted with dazzling golden red brilliance. The intense light seemed to want to dominate his entire dantian. At the same time, the other 8 imprints radiated their own brilliant light, almost instantly suppressing the golden red flames back into the new imprint. Clearly, the 9th imprint Tang San had just fused was also a first-tier bloodline, but with so many other first-tier bloodlines already in his body, and with the golden armor transformation as the dominant force, there was no way this newcomer could rise above. The comprehensive suppression quickly subdued this newcomer, and within just a few breaths, it had fully integrated into the energy vortex. This was the fastest merger Tang San had ever experienced. With the Polar Luck domain and the Heaven Garden's support, and his immense strength, This bloodline had no chance to resist. With the 9 imprints now gathered, light clusters appeared behind Tang San. 9 clusters of light, each a different color, representing the 9 bloodline imprints and above all power. Tang San could feel his body beginning to tremble slightly. He could barely suppress his aura any longer. Without any hesitation or delay, Tang San opened his eyes, and in that instant, his pupils flashed with crimson light and deep blue light that intermingled chaotically. The yin-yang energy which he had long absorbed and prepared, flowed down under his guidance and was directly injected into the blue adamant emperor imprint. Yes, this was the final step before facing the tribulation. He was going to take advantage of the tribulation to fully fuse and elevate his blue adamant emperor to the transcendent tier. The moment the deep blue and crimson energies were infused into the blue adamant emperor, the previously stable yin-yang vortex surrounding it nearly exploded. Terrifying yin-yang energy surged out, and in that instant, even the brilliance of the other imprints, including the golden armor transformation, seemed to dim. The massive heavenly bloom beneath Tang San also shook violently, causing all the lotus seeds to tremble slightly. The next moment, the red and blue in Tang San's eyes vanished almost simultaneously, and the immense pain made him let out an intense cry. As the roar echoed, his entire body turned pure gold, and a brilliant golden light shot skyward, forming a massive golden pillar that pierced the heavens. At that moment, Tang San no longer held back his aura at all. His divine consciousness was fully activated, his internal energy erupted, and all 9 of his bloodline imprints simultaneously radiated intense energy and vitality. Suddenly, everything around him began to tremble, and the entire Hell Garden started shaking violently. The fortune power within the heavenly bloom began to multiply geometrically, and Tang San frantically absorbed it into his body. The ancestral court was, as always, bathed in dense spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Those who lived within the ancestral court were the elites of the various powerful clans. Living and cultivating here made it much easier to advance than cultivating in the outside world. This place was also where the fortune of the entire demon continent was concentrated, making the opportunities to gain fortune here far greater than anywhere else. This was why all demons and nymphs aspired to become nobility and sought to gather enough resources to enter the ancestral court. Here, both strength and lifespan far exceeded what was possible in the outside world. At this time of the day, the number of people climbing the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain was quite large. Those climbing the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain were not just members of the Celestial Fox clan, but also many from other clans. They climbed in hopes of gaining the blessing of fortune. Moreover, if they could reach the summit and stand before the Celestial Fox Palace, there was even a chance of receiving a fortune stone token. Who would miss out on that? Among all the emperors, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was widely regarded as the most generous. The likelihood of gaining benefits from climbing the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain was much higher than from climbing other sacred mountains. Therefore, this place had always been a holy site for pilgrims from all clans. A demon with a golden bloodline climbing the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain suddenly halted, a look of surprise crossing its face. Just now, it had felt as if the ground beneath the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain quaked slightly. Was it an illusion? Or perhaps a test of its resolve? The demon pondered in confusion. But in the next moment, the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain shook again. This time much more violently. The entire mountain swayed noticeably, and all the demons and nymphs climbing it felt the tremor immediately. All the climbers stopped in unison, confusion written on their faces, unsure of what was happening. In the very next instant, powerful auras erupted from the Celestial Fox Palace at the summit of the mountain, and a vast wave of fortune descended, enveloping the entire Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. But then tiny cracks began to appear all over the mountain's surface, and from these cracks streams of golden light surged forth, spilling outward. Under the fortune released by the Celestial Fox Palace, these golden lights were initially contained within a certain range, preventing them from leaking out. However, it wasn't long before the entire Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain was bathed in gold. The fortune within the Celestial Fox Palace was able to suppress the golden light from spilling out, but the sky above the ancestral court had already changed. Yes, the sky had changed. It had gone dark in a heartbeat, and an incredibly terrifying pressure descended from above, making it seem as though the entire ancestral court was on the brink of an apocalypse. The ancestral court council hall. Each celestial pillar radiated dazzling light, and colorful halos swirled through the hall. Mei Gongzi stood on the floor, now covered in multicolored light that even masked her original silver light. Her aura, along with these colorful lights, was continuously rising. Her cultivation was improving, and even her divine consciousness was being enhanced. The White Tiger Demon Emperor furrowed his brow, observing the situation below with suspicion. In his perception, Mei Gongzi was indeed growing stronger, and the process seemed flawless. The power of the ancestral court's will was pure and immense, continuously washing over and merging into Mei Gongzi. He knew all too well that mobilizing the ancestral court's will for this type of cleansing consumed the energy of the celestial pillars, so it was only done as strictly necessary. Typically, a thorough baptism was reserved as a reward for those with significant achievements. In fact, even when the White Tiger Demon Emperor himself underwent the cleansing, the amount of power mobilized was not this vast. Obviously, the more power mobilized, the greater the benefits. Could it be that the old fox had a change of heart? Is this some sort of compensation for putting her through all that trouble? If this cleansing and enhancement continued at this pace, it wouldn't be long before Mei Gongzi advanced to the 11th order. And the moment she became a great demon king, given the talent she had displayed, she would undoubtedly deserve the title of Lord of Kali City, even more so than her father. At the very least, the powerhouses of the Peacock Demon clan would not be able to suppress her even if they worked together. Only Mei Gongzi herself was increasingly feeling that something was wrong. Her cultivation level and even her divine consciousness were indeed rising continuously. However, she noticed that while these energies were merging into her body, they weren't converting into her power but merely integrating. Each type of energy seemed to have its own will. A multitude of chaotic energies were being injected into her body and consciousness. With her level of cultivation, Mei Gongzi could naturally merge some of these chaotic energies, but this process required time. If the infusion was slower, or if she was given enough time to absorb and assimilate it, this would undoubtedly be beneficial. However, the pace at which these energies were being infused was accelerating. The ancestral court's cleansing was not supposed to be. The energies were supposed to convert before merging into her body. But now it was clear that this conversion process was missing. The unabsorbed chaotic energies were not supplementing Mei Gongzi's own strength, but undermining it. While her overall energy and aura were indeed increasing, she was finding it increasingly difficult to withstand the massive influx of chaotic energy. Compared to her bloodline power, her divine consciousness was better protected. As the Azura sword sat at its center, the sword intent of judgment was incredibly powerful, and it shattered the chaotic energy assaulting her sea of consciousness, making the merger fairly easy. However, merging the chaotic energies in her bloodline was far more difficult. These were, after all, the powers of former emperors, not something easily subdued. At that moment, the Ancestral Court Council suddenly experienced a slight tremor. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, who was focusing on the energy baptism, abruptly looked up. A trace of shock appeared in his eyes. In the next instant, all the emperors present sensed that something was wrong. Instinctively, they all looked up at the sky. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor raised his left hand and swiped it across the air. Instantly, the sky above the council hall brightened, projecting a scene before the emperor's eyes. Darkness, pure deep darkness. Darkness filled with nothing but crisscrossing streaks of deep purple lightning. The terrifying immense pressure made the emperors feel a tightness in their chests, a sense of oppression. This darkness had already completely enveloped the sky above the ancestral court. "What is that?" the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor blurted out. The expression of the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was no longer calm. It had turned extremely serious. He also sensed that something had gone wrong at the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. Almost instinctively, he looked down at Mei Gongzi. Since this girl had come for her evaluation, all sorts of uncontrollable events had followed one after another. Was this the result of the Peacock Demon clan's ability to peer into the secrets of heaven? Only those who could do so were able to perturb his dominion over destiny. "Let's go check it out," the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor said. And then he transformed into a streak of white light, shooting into the sky. In a moment he vanished. The ancestral court had never faced such a massive-scale phenomenon before. The emperors were all shocked and immediately left the council hall, flashing out to the outside world. Inside the council chamber, the ancestral court's cleansing continued, still impacting Mei Gongzi's body. However, without the direct control of the celestial fox demon emperor, things were much easier. Blinding lights like rising stars appeared in different positions in the sky above the ancestral court. The overwhelming auras that accompanied them illuminated the darkness. Each light represented the appearance of an emperor. The multicolored lights painted the sky in brilliant hues, and their combined aura shielded the entire ancestral court. Just moments ago, the demons and nymphs within the ancestral court had been involuntarily prostrating on the ground under the overwhelming pressure of this terrifying aura, unable to move. They felt as if their bodies and minds were about to be crushed. This horrifying darkness carried an apocalyptic aura, and the crisscrossing bolts of terrifying lightning seemed poised to destroy the entire ancestral court the moment they struck. The only thing on the ground that stood out was the celestial fox sacred mountain, gleaming with brilliant golden light. Undoubtedly, the change in the sky was related to the celestial fox sacred mountain. However, the ordinary demons and nymphs had no idea about that. All they could do was tremble under the overwhelming pressure. "Old fox, what's going on here?" A deep roar resounded from within a massive crimson light. This light had positioned itself at the center of the ancestral court, forming a huge barrier of light. A mass of white light appeared as well, slightly weaker than the red light but not by much. The celestial fox demon emperor's somber voice followed. "I don't know what's happening. It's beyond my control." "You don't know what's happening? Look at your damned sacred mountain." The voice within the red light was growing even more furious. The celestial fox demon emperor had naturally sensed the changes on the celestial fox sacred mountain. It was, after all, his domain. A voice tinged with surprise and disbelief echoed from a deep blue light. "A tribulation. This is a tribulation." "A tribulation? What kind of tribulation is this? How could such a terrifying tribulation appear?" The voice within the red light belonged to none other than the sun-nurtured sun-born nymph emperor, the most powerful emperor of the Solstice Empire and the leader of all nymphs. Even he was filled with confusion at this moment. The celestial fox demon emperor said gravely, "Whatever it is, we must deal with this tribulation first. Let's combine our strength to disperse the tribulation clouds." Although the relationship between the demons and the nymphs was delicate, they always stood united on major issues. In an instant, beams of intense light shot into the sky like pillars, striking the massive tribulation clouds above. The massive tribulation clouds shook violently in the sky, and the heavens brightened in an instant. The dense black clouds were pierced through, leaving gaping holes. The combined power of a good dozen emperors was quite literally sky-shattering. Even though these tribulation clouds were unprecedented in size and energy, they were dispersed in an instant. However, each emperor's expression turned extremely grim. When they used their strength to strike the tribulation clouds, they clearly felt the terrifying power within those clouds, a force capable of erasing one's essence. Although they managed to scatter the clouds, each of them had their fundamental essence visibly weakened. This wasn't the type of energy that could be quickly restored. It was the fundamental essence of their bloodlines and divine consciousness, cultivated over countless years. Losing it meant not just being tired but actually losing cultivation. Although they were only weakened by 1%, given their vast power, even 1% was a terrifying amount. Amidst the glowing lights, the emperors revealed their true forms, and their gazes almost all focused on the celestial fox demon emperor. They could all clearly see that this terrifying tribulation had originated from the celestial fox sacred mountain, the domain of the celestial fox demon emperor. The sun-nurtured sun-born nymph emperor spoke in a deep voice. "Celestial fox, you owe everyone an explanation. What exactly is going on?" The celestial fox demon emperor frowned deeply and replied in a grave tone. "If I told you that I don't know what's happening, would you believe me?" The earth-shade nymph emperor coldly responded. "If you don't know, then investigate quickly." Just as she spoke, she suddenly sensed something and instinctively looked up at the sky, and the gravity in her eyes deepened. It wasn't just her. The other emperors also sensed it as the sky grew dark once again. This time it was even more oppressive than before. and the terrifying pressure caused the Emperor's aura to brighten. This was because they needed to use more power to resist it. The undying Demon Emperor, who was standing beside the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, couldn't help but ask, "Where did this tribulation come from?" The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor turned to glance at him, then refocused his gaze toward the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. At this moment he was not just confused but outright shocked. Beneath the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain there was thunder roared in the sky, and terrifying purple lightning crisscrossed. In the next moment, a massive bolt of lightning descended from the heavens, striking the barrier formed by the emperors with tremendous force. The barrier trembled violently, and the emperors' bodies quaked, their faces revealing shock. If this world-ending power struck the ancestral court, it could mean the end. "I'll go check it out," the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor said hastily, not daring to delay. He turned into a beam of white light and shot toward the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. In midair, the pure white, jade-like shadow of a nine-tailed fox appeared behind him. The enormous nine tails swayed in the air, releasing rings of milky white light that covered the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain and its surroundings, concealing its aura. After just a short observation, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor calmed down. His senses were the clearest, and there was no doubt that the terrifying tribulation clouds in the sky had been drawn by the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, more precisely, by the golden light emanating from beneath the mountain. He didn't know what kind of power could attract such a fearsome tribulation, but he did know what was being kept beneath the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. His first thought was that the negative forces being suppressed within the Hell Garden had not been adequately fed. Was the garden lacking in life essence? But he quickly dismissed this idea. The Hell Garden was guarded by the heavenly bloom, the essence of destiny he had left behind, or rather, the source of fortune for the entire demon continent. It couldn't be so easily disturbed. Therefore, the force that had attracted this tribulation had to be external, something unprecedented. When the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor descended upon the peak of the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, his nine tails spread out like a canopy, controlling all the energy in the area and forcibly blocking the influence of the golden light below. Sure enough, the tribulation clouds in the sky seemed to have lost their target, becoming noticeably calmer, and no more lightning bolts fell. This confirmed that the arrival of this tribulation was due to something going wrong beneath the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. Whether they were demon or nymph emperors, they all knew that the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor held in his hands the fortune of the demon continent, with the ancestral court serving as the focal point of this fortune. This was why they could reap so many benefits here, and that was why the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor held such a high position within the ancestral court. But at this moment, the sudden emergence of such a situation was something they could never have anticipated. The Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain had encountered a problem, and the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, who controlled destiny, had not foreseen it? The only one who had any idea about what was going on was the White Tiger Demon Emperor. At this moment, the White Tiger Demon Emperor's heart was filled with a strange feeling. Could it be? Was this caused by that boy? He was the only one who knew that Tang San had also come to the ancestral court with Mei Gongzi. But during Mei Gongzi's assessment, or rather after they entered the ancestral court, they had parted ways. He had no doubt that the boy would do everything he could to help his granddaughter pass her evaluation. So where was he? He had gone missing 2 days ago, whereabouts unknown. The White Tiger Demon Emperor hadn't been too concerned. Deep down, he didn't believe that during Mei Gongzi's assessment at the ancestral court, a boy who hadn't even reached godhood could accomplish anything significant. But he could also see how much Mei Gongzi relied on Tang San. Today, Mei Gongzi's performance during her assessment could only be described as stunning. Her abilities, her foundation, even defeating an immortal flame phoenix great demon king, and gaining the support of many emperors. These were things she shouldn't have been capable of. So, could it be related to that boy? Had he come to the ancestral court early to set something up? At this moment, as the sudden and terrifying lightning tribulation descended, it reminded the White Tiger Demon Emperor of the aura Tang San exuded, one that seemed incompatible with this world, along with his vigorous blood energy. Although the White Tiger Demon Emperor harbored some suspicions, he still couldn't believe that someone who hadn't attained godhood could provoke a lightning tribulation so terrifying that even the emperors feared it. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor descended above the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, his eyes completely turning white as his vast divine consciousness surged directly into the mountain. What he saw was an endless expanse of gold, accompanied by a boundless power of fortune. Without a doubt, it was the fortune belonging to the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, along with the aura of the Hell Garden, which was suppressed beneath the mountain, representing the opposite of fortune. However, at this moment, the aura of both fortune and misfortune was filled with chaotic fluctuations, and within it, there existed a different, highly unusual aura. That scorching aura, so intense it seemed capable of burning even divine consciousness, surged forth from beneath the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain like a volcanic eruption. It was as if something was attempting to break through to the sky. It was only due to the suppression of the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain and the many members of the Celestial Fox clan that it hadn't broken out. The lightning tribulation in the sky was likely drawn by this very aura. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's senses were incredibly sharp, and he could naturally feel the overwhelming pressure in the sky was entirely directed at this aura, determined to obliterate it completely. Anywhere else, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor would have remained a cold-eyed observer, but not here. This was the ancestral court. It was the very heart of the demon and nymph clans, and the problem was rooted in the foundation that the Celestial Fox lineage had accumulated over many generations. One could say that the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's entire strength was closely tied to the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. The core fortune of Phelan Planet, condensed into this mountain, was part of his power. If the mountain were to be destroyed by the lightning tribulation, he might even lose his Emperor Cultivation. This could cause a significant disturbance in the fortune accumulated over the years on the demon continent, potentially leading to the decline of demons and nymphs alike. Therefore, at this moment, he was more anxious than any other emperor, because he understood better than anyone the immense danger this situation posed. Ignoring the turbulent aura that soared into the sky, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor forcibly directed his divine consciousness toward the Hell Garden. He quickly sensed the presence of 9 distinct auras, each incredibly powerful, at least exceptionally strong for those below godhood, and all in a peculiar state. Moreover, there were several auras among them that even he could not identify. Godly tribulation? Is this a group of 9 powerful individuals breaking through together? Is that what's causing such a terrifying lightning tribulation? But even 9 tribulation crossers shouldn't be able to accomplish this. No, that's not right. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor suddenly realized something, and a look of shock flashed in his eyes as he instinctively turned his head to look at the emperors in the sky. Who is it? Who has created a bloodline like that? A bloodline beyond the first tier is not tolerated by heaven and earth. He suddenly understood that the reason for this terrifying lightning tribulation was not the number of tribulation crossers, but rather by a bloodline that should not exist, a bloodline that transcended any known in the world today. The intense fluctuation of that bloodline could not possibly be explained by a first-tier bloodline or even 9 of them. No wonder it provoked the wrath of the plane and such a terrifying lightning tribulation. Only the emperors present here would be capable of cultivating a bloodline like that. At this moment, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was filled with extraordinary rage. For personal gain, someone had drawn this cataclysmic lightning tribulation, and on his territory no less. Were they not attempting to rely on his power and the strength of the ancestral court to resist the tribulation and allow that bloodline to successfully pass through it? This cannot be allowed. The emergence of a transcendent bloodline would inevitably result in more of the plane's resources being taken. He couldn't afford to waste time questioning anyone, as he had no evidence. He could only use his divine consciousness to perceive more deeply. Soon, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor discovered that these 9 bloodlines were closely interconnected, as if some special force was binding them together. Moreover, there wasn't just one transcendent bloodline. One had already stabilized, and another, even more powerful, seemed to be forming. Centered around these 2 transcendent bloodlines, the 9 forces merged, producing an exponential burst of energy. This was where that terrifying aura erupted from, reaching a point where it was nearly uncontrollable. A madman, this is a madman. This was the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's first judgment after clearly sensing the situation within the Hell Garden through his divine consciousness. Although he didn't know how the other party had done it, Daring to create a transcendent bloodline and defy the plane was unquestionably insane. The first thought that crossed his mind was that this was the scheme of a certain emperor, clearly intending to create a monster. Knowing full well that such a creature couldn't possibly survive the tribulation, they placed it in the ancestral court, hoping to threaten the safety of the court to coerce the other emperors into assisting in the tribulation. If the creature succeeded, it could potentially become an existence that surpassed the emperors in the future. Without any hesitation, the celestial fox demon emperor instantly unleashed his full divine consciousness, directly pressing through the celestial fox sacred mountain toward the plain where the Hell Garden was located. The most straightforward way to resolve the terrifying heavenly tribulation was to crush the being that drew it to dust, causing the tribulation to dissipate on its own. This was the most effective approach. However, in the next moment, the celestial fox demon emperor's expression drastically changed, as he clearly sensed that his divine consciousness, which was supposed to crush everything, had hit nothing but empty space. The small plane of the Hell Garden, which had been emitting an aura and attracting the tribulation, seemed to have vanished into thin air. His divine consciousness had missed entirely. How could this be possible? Even with the celestial fox demon emperor's usual composure, he couldn't help but be stunned. This situation was beyond his imagination. The Hell Garden clearly existed, and it was still emitting an aura that attracted such a terrifying tribulation. How could it be that his divine consciousness couldn't even detect it? He had summoned this plane himself. Who could possibly know more about the Hell Garden than he did? But the facts were right before his eyes, leaving him no choice but to believe it. At this moment, the Hell Garden seemed to be enveloped in a void, and no matter how his divine consciousness swept across, he couldn't capture its exact location. Meanwhile, the aura emanating from within the Hell Garden only grew stronger. In the sky, dark clouds had gathered again, and the terrifying pressure was even stronger. All the emperors felt a deep unease, as if the overwhelming pressure on their hearts made them believe the world was on the brink of destruction. "Celestial Fox, are you done yet?" The sun-born nymph emperor shouted again. The force that drew this tribulation clearly lay beneath the celestial fox demon emperor's celestial fox sacred mountain. Who could believe that it had nothing to do with him? The celestial fox demon emperor did not answer. He was fully focused on using his divine consciousness to search for the Hell Garden. Inside the Hell Garden, the heavenly bloom beneath Tang San was radiating layers of golden light, due to the overwhelming aura Tang San was emitting. At this moment, the aura that Tang San had been suppressing was now fully unleashed, with all the bloodline imprints in his body erupting wildly. His body was also enduring immense shock. The impact from the extreme yin-yang combination of sunborn and earthshade energies was immense. The intense yin and yang energies clashed wildly, and the previously stable vortex surrounding the blue adamant emperor had long since been dispersed. Tang San's body was constantly enduring immense pain, but his expression remained calm throughout. In his previous life, he had already experienced the extreme yin-yang tempering of the ice-fire alchemical body, so he knew exactly what would happen in such a situation. The yin-yang energies now were far more intense than those of the ice-fire alchemical body, but he now had the powerful forces of golden armor transformation, lion-tiger transformation, and dragon rock transformation protecting his body. At this moment, his entire body was a radiant golden color. Under the protection and defense of the other 8 bloodlines, the immense energy of the yin-yang forces was being forcibly compressed inward, continuously overlapping, merging, and rotating. The blue adamant emperor was repeatedly being shattered and reborn within, undergoing a difficult fusion with the two energies. Tang San didn't know how many times he had rehearsed this moment in his mind, but everything was part of his plan. He knew very well that from the moment he fully committed to summoning the heavenly tribulation, everything would become irreversible, so there could be no mistakes. Without absolute and complete preparation, he wouldn't have appeared here, wouldn't have summoned the tribulation. To cross the tribulation, Tang San had made 9 layers of preparations in total. In his original calculations, just 6 of them would give him more than an 80% chance of success. The remaining 3 were contingencies just in case. The current situation was exactly as he had calculated. When the heavenly tribulation descended, shaking the ancestral court, what would be the first reaction of the emperors within? Naturally, it would be to protect the ancestral court, a place of fundamental importance to both demons and nymphs, so they would never allow the tribulation to fall on the ancestral court easily. The celestial fox demon emperor, in particular, would go to great lengths to protect his celestial fox sacred mountain. This place had accumulated fortune for countless years, and if that fortune were broken, the consequences for demons and nymphs would be unimaginable. And this was one of Tang San's 9 trump cards, playing on their fears. Sure enough, in the early stages of the tribulation, the emperors, using their immense power, dispersed the tribulation for Tang San, giving him ample time to complete the fusion of his transcendent bloodline. The fusion of the yin-yang energy with the blue adamant emperor was even more difficult than with the golden armor transformation. This was essentially the fusion of 3 major bloodlines, and the yin-yang energy had existed since the beginning of the universe, placing it on a higher level than the golden armor transformation. Therefore, the heavenly might it attracted was bound to be even more terrifying. If this were happening elsewhere and Tang San encountered the tribulation during this process, he wouldn't even have the chance to fuse the bloodlines. He would likely be reduced to ashes in the tribulation. But now, his fusion process could be described as calm and gradual. After all, he was currently on the heavenly bloom, a place where fortune was concentrated. Through his previous observations and perceptions, combined with his subsequent reflections, Tang San understood that the lotus seeds within the heavenly bloom were an exceptional existence. Simply put, they could be described as embodying absolute fortune. What is absolute fortune? It is fortune without any counterbalance, pure fortune with no corresponding misfortune. A plane inherently possessed both fortune and misfortune. This was a law of nature. But the reason the plane could thrive was not that the two were balanced, but precisely that they were not. Fortune as a whole slightly surpassed misfortune. This allowed a plane to be stable and slowly evolve. Conversely, if misfortune came to outweigh fortune, the plane would be on the brink of destruction. Both situations could and did happen. It was, as said, a law of nature. This realization came to Tang San after entering the Hell Garden, and as his cultivation of the discerning eye of heaven continued to deepen. The divine realm he belonged to had once faced a great crisis, being swept away by space-time chaos. Looking back, it was clear that the divine realm also dealt with the forces of fortune and misfortune. When it was swept away by the chaotic currents of space-time, it was undoubtedly due to misfortune greatly outweighing fortune, thereby attracting the oppression of the cosmic laws. In fact, the very roots of fortune and misfortune were likely closely tied to these cosmic laws. At this moment, as Tang San sat cross-legged on the heavenly bloom, he was basking in pure, unadulterated fortune. This was the greatest private reserve left by the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor for the Celestial Fox clan. This absolute fortune was also Tang San's second trump card. By merging the yin-yang energy and crossing the tribulation here, his chances of success were significantly higher. The third trump card was the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's current situation. Why couldn't he sense the Hell Garden plane he had arranged himself? It was because the space-time lighthouse was floating in midair before Tang San, emitting ripples of strange radiance. Tang San had been near the heavenly bloom for nearly 2 days. What had he been doing during that time? He had been preparing, gradually linking his space-time lighthouse with this plane. Although the space-time lighthouse had not yet been fully refined, under the continuous refinement with large amounts of rainbow skyfire liquid, it had already reached the level of a divine weapon. Moreover, it was made of the largest piece of space-time beacon Tang San had ever seen. Even he, a god king, was in awe at this item, which showed just how significant its functions could be. The space-time lighthouse was a guide that locked onto planes. In the universe, there were many parallel spaces that could not be reached by speed alone. For these parallel spaces to meet one another was mostly a matter of chance, unless their temporal and spatial coordinates could be locked onto, and there was sufficient power to travel through time and space to a clear location. This was the function of a space-time lighthouse. A powerful divine realm could cover not just one but multiple planes. When the planes covered were not in the same space, a space-time beacon artifact was required to lock onto these planes, thereby allowing the divine realm to establish communication and obtain the power of faith. This was how important a space-time beacon was. The space-time beacon that was the basic material of Tang San's space-time lighthouse was enormous, and its influence on time and space was naturally immense. At least in Tang San's memory, including his interactions with other god kings, there had never been a space-time beacon of this size. And now, though he was no longer a god king nor in control of a divine realm, he had refined this space-time lighthouse into his own divine item. Utilizing the power of the space-time lighthouse, Tang San directly disrupted the spatial coordinates of the Hell Garden, drawing upon his experience as a god king and the subtle guidance provided by the space-time lighthouse. Although the celestial fox demon emperor's cultivation was far superior to his, the former's knowledge in this area was vastly lacking. There was no comparison. Tang San had anticipated that during his tribulation in the Hell Garden, the celestial fox demon emperor would likely target him directly. Although the emperor was not skilled in combat, his divine consciousness was that of a first-class god, far beyond what Tang San could contend with. But no matter how strong he was, if he couldn't lock onto the plane's location, what good would it do? Of course, this tactic was ineffective against the heavenly tribulation. The Hell Garden plane depended on the Phelan planet plane for its existence. Unless Tang San could refine the space-time lighthouse into a transcendent divine weapon and directly remove the Hell Garden's mini-plane from the main one, blocking the connection between planes was impossible. As a result, the celestial fox demon emperor could still sense the presence of the Hell Garden, but his divine consciousness couldn't lock onto it, leaving him in a state of anxious frustration. The terrifying thunder roared violently. As the fusion of the yin-yang energy and the blue adamant emperor grew tighter, the wild aura intensified, causing the heavenly tribulation to become increasingly agitated. Massive bolts of purple lightning descended from the sky, carrying world-destroying power as they shot toward the celestial fox sacred mountain. The celestial fox sacred mountain sat at the center of the ancestral court, gathering its fortune, a fact known to all the emperors. So, despite their anger and astonishment at the celestial fox demon emperor, they had no choice but to intervene. Waves of immense blood energy surged as the emperors fully unleashed their auras. A massive red flower suddenly bloomed, covering an area of 1,000 zhang in radius. A scorching pillar of light shot into the sky, directly devouring a third of the descending lightning. In his fury, the sun-born nymph emperor unleashed the terrifying aura of the most powerful nymph emperor. Pure yang energy surged upward, directly shattering the lightning. At the same time, surrounding the sun-born flower, hundreds of smaller blue flowers bloomed, each about 1% of its size. Their cold aura spread outward, freezing nearly a third of the remaining lightning. The combined efforts of the sun-born and earthshade nymph emperors neutralized 2/3 of the lightning's power. The remaining lightning was easily swept away by the other emperors. With a resounding cry, a golden-red fire phoenix soared into the sky, expanding rapidly until its wingspan exceeded 500 meters. It charged directly into the tribulation clouds, and in an instant, it burned the clouds into the same golden-red color, causing them to melt and dissipate. Together with the two nymph emperors, it dispersed the tribulation clouds once more. This lightning tribulation harms life essence. How vile! The sun-born nymph emperor roared in anger. The pure yang energy surged, forming a massive pillar of light that enveloped the undying demon emperor. The combined efforts of the two emperors slightly reduced the destructive power of the tribulation that was assaulting the others. If Tang San could witness this scene, he would surely marvel at their strength. These emperors, especially the highest-ranked ones, were undeniably powerful. Each of them was an incredibly formidable being. However, if the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation were so easily blocked, Tang San wouldn't have been so troubled and wouldn't have had to choose the Hell Garden as the site for his tribulation. This was a huge risk, one that involved opposing all the emperors of the ancestral court, but it was the only way to have a chance at success. After his first visit to the ancestral court, Tang San had decided that this was where he would undergo his tribulation. The ancestral court was the center of fortune for the entire Phelan planet, a place blessed by luck for countless years, with an immense accumulation of fortune. Moreover, what place could be more suitable with so many emperors protecting the ancestral court? With the proper utilization of these resources, there was a chance to create a miracle. White light reassembled at the peak of the celestial fox sacred mountain, and the celestial fox demon emperor's long hair fluttered without wind, forming a disc-like shape behind his head. His eyes had turned completely snow-white, and the 9-tailed fox shadow behind him had solidified as if it were real. All the emperors could sense the fury within his emotions. They had known the celestial fox demon emperor for quite some time, but it was the first time they had seen him in such a state of anger. This was someone who always strategized with precision, winning a fight from half a world away. Clearly, the situation had spiraled out of control. "Celestial Fox, what on earth is going on?" the Sunborn Nymph Emperor asked loudly. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor replied in a deep voice. "An unknown entity has invaded the core of destiny within my Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, and is undergoing a tribulation there. This entity has created a bloodline beyond the first tier, which is why such a terrifying lightning tribulation has descended. However, I don't know what method was used, but my core of destiny has been isolated from the outside world. It's as if the space it's located in has been separated. My divine consciousness cannot detect it, yet it remains connected to this plane, which is why the tribulation is occurring here." "What? Your core of destiny can be invaded? Who could possibly do that?" The Sunborn Nymph Emperor was shocked. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's expression darkened further, as if it could drip water, and he said bluntly, "Then you'll have to ask yourselves, who among you raised this one?" He absolutely refused to believe that such an existence could emerge without the support of an emperor. Upon hearing his question, the emperors present were taken aback, but when they thought about it, it made sense. Without the backing of an emperor, who could create such a commotion right under their noses in the ancestral court? But which one was it then? Among the emperors at this moment, only the White Tiger Demon Emperor felt some measure of clarity. So it really is that kid. He's too damn reckless. So the kid really was not lying, and the White Tiger Demon Emperor's senses hadn't led him into error. Tang San really was not a god, and his bloodline really was beyond the first tier, just as he had claimed. Though he hadn't expected Tang San to pull off something, now that he heard the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's accusations, there was no doubt in his mind. Of course, he would never admit this had anything to do with him. 1. The Earthshade Nymph Emperor, shrouded in blue light, asked in a grave voice. "So what do we do now?" The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor said. "We need to drag whoever is doing this out and destroy them. The tribulation will naturally dissipate. Otherwise, we'll just have to endure the tribulation. We're essentially bearing it for them right now. If we can't pull them out, then we'll need to control the range of the tribulation and force it to find and destroy them. A tribulation of this magnitude is the wrath of the plane. Clearly, the plane does not allow them to exist. The tribulation itself can destroy them eventually. But if that happens, the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, and the fortune that my Celestial Fox clan has gathered over the years for both demons and nymphs, will also be scattered by the tribulation. So the best solution is to drag that scoundrel out." "How is he hiding within that space?" the Undying Demon Emperor asked. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor shook his head and said, "I don't know. At our level, we all have some understanding of space. But what they've done is very strange. We can clearly sense their presence, yet it's as if they are in another space and time, intangible and elusive. Even my divine consciousness can't capture it, and there's no way to pinpoint the actual location of that space. If only the Peacock Demon Emperor were still here," sighed the White Tiger Demon Emperor. The Peacock Demon Emperor was the master of space, the one with the deepest understanding of space in the history of the ancestral court. But now the Peacock Demon Emperor had long passed, and the remaining Peacock Demon clan members, at the White Tiger Demon Emperor's reminder, the other Demon Emperors suddenly remembered that there was indeed someone in the Ancestral Court's Council who excelled in spatial abilities. The Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor blurted out, "What about that little girl from the Peacock Demon clan?" The Sky-Splitting Demon Emperor replied in a deep voice, "I don't think so. She's only a demon king, maybe barely a great demon king right now. Even if she has spatial abilities, if Celestial Fox's divine consciousness can't find that person, how could she?" The Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor said, "But she has the celestial plume, which belonged to the Peacock Demon Emperor. Maybe it's worth a try." The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor frowned deeply, feeling that something was off. But the Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor's words did make sense, and he said instinctively, "If we can really find that scoundrel, the celestial plume might be our best bet." Though Mei Gongzi's cultivation is lacking, her understanding of space is profound. It might work if she could harness the power of the Peacock Demon Emperor's celestial pillar. But wait, She's still undergoing her trial at the council hall. Thinking of this, the celestial fox demon emperor's swirling hair suddenly fell, and he transformed into a beam of white light, heading toward the ancestral court council hall. The tribulation was upon them once again. This time the entire sky had turned a deep purple, and the terrifying tribulation clouds covered the entire ancestral court, with overwhelming power crashing down. The emperors felt the immense pressure, and their expressions changed subtly. This lightning tribulation was unlike anything they had ever seen. Although the tribulation was not directly targeting them, and they could retreat at any time, the ancestral court was the culmination of generations of emperors' efforts, and the spiritual center of both the demon and nymph races. It was the true land of their ancestors. If it were destroyed, it would truly shake the foundation of their rule. Therefore, no matter what, they had to protect it. The sky-splitting demon emperor, who had not yet made a move, suddenly let out a roar. His already massive body swelled even further, and a blinding golden light burst forth from him. In an instant he transformed into a titanic beast over 500 meters tall, radiating blinding golden light. He stretched out his arms, and his claws, hundreds of meters long, opened wide, reaching fiercely toward the sky. In the sky, dozens of massive spatial rifts suddenly opened, as if they had truly torn the heavens apart, swallowing large portions of the descending lightning tribulation. Even the emperors, who had witnessed countless battles, found this scene extremely shocking. As a behemoth that could rival dragons and phoenixes, the power displayed by the sky-splitting demon emperor left even the higher-ranked emperors stunned. A blinding cold light flashed beside the sky-splitting demon emperor. It was a sword, a jet-black longsword. As the longsword shot into the sky, it seemed to pierce through the heavens, creating a gap in the tribulation clouds, allowing sunlight to pour through once again. The sunlight reflected off the blade, causing the longsword to shine brightly. All the surrounding lightning converged on the sword as if it had found a lightning rod. The longsword flickered as it conducted the lightning into the spatial rifts torn open by the sky-splitting demon emperor, channeling all the descending lightning into those rifts. It was none other than the cloud-soaring sword Saint Demon Emperor. The overwhelming sword intent, combined with the fierce aura of the sky-splitting demon emperor, seemed to suppress even the lightning tribulation in the sky for a moment. Present at the scene were not only the demon emperors but also the nymph emperors. The latter couldn't help but frown as they watched this display. Although demons and nymphs were united as one under such critical circumstances, they had always had a competitive relationship. Nymphs had consistently been suppressed by the demons. In secret, they had been striving to regain the upper hand. For both clans, top-tier power had always been the most important factor in comparison. Demons had the Crystal Demon Emperor, the pinnacle of all emperors, and they had 9 emperors in total. Originally, nymphs were supposed to have one more emperor, but instead, demons had gained the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor. This caused considerable conflict between them at the time. But now, watching the demon emperors display their power, the nymph emperors couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor was one of the lower-ranked demon emperors, yet the strength he displayed was far greater than they had anticipated. As for the sky-splitting demon emperor, the power he unleashed in an instant was nearly on par with the undying demon emperor. The strength of these demon emperors was truly terrifying. The lightning tribulation was blocked once again, and on the other side, the celestial fox demon emperor had returned to the ancestral court council. Accompanying him was the white tiger demon emperor. At this moment, the white tiger demon emperor couldn't afford to have any reservations. Celestial Fox had previously targeted Mei Gongzi. What if he intended to harm her now? With himself overseeing the situation, there was nothing to fear. Inside the ancestral court council, the colorful light bands continued to assault Mei Gongzi's delicate body, but without the emperors overseeing the process, the force was much gentler than before. Mei Gongzi frowned as she endured the baptism of the ancestral court's power. Despite this, she remained stable. The celestial fox demon emperor had gradually calmed down after returning to the council after his earlier fit of impotent rage. As he looked at Mei Gongzi enduring the onslaught, a strange feeling appeared within him. It was an urge to destroy the girl before him. It was a gut feeling, a subconscious instinct that seemed to suggest that everything could be resolved only by destroying this girl. Even a mere intuition was often enough for an emperor to act upon. However, at this moment another instinct gnawed at the celestial fox demon emperor. He had a feeling that if this girl were to die, it would bring about an unimaginable disaster. In his mind it was a vision of darkness, a darkness filled with deathly stillness. "Stop the baptism, it's been long enough." The voice of the white tiger demon emperor sounded, snapping the celestial fox demon emperor out of his hesitation. The celestial fox demon emperor turned his head to glance at him and suddenly asked in a deep voice, "Is the lightning tribulation related to you?" The white tiger demon emperor's eyes instantly flashed with a murderous intent. "Related to me? What did you sense earlier? Was it the aura of my clan?" Hearing this, the celestial fox demon emperor frowned but shook his head. Earlier he had sensed the changes in the aura of not one but two transcendent bloodlines through his divine consciousness. There was yin and yang, strangeness, ferocity, spatial changes, and even shifts in destiny. But there was no sign of the white tiger demon emperor's murderous intent. So while he couldn't be sure which emperor was behind it, he was certain it had nothing to do with the white tiger demon emperor, as his particular aura was absent among the many others. "Then why the hell are you asking?" The white tiger demon emperor responded irritably. With a wave of his hand, the celestial fox demon emperor caused the colorful light below to gradually recede. Yet, despite this, Mei Gongxi's body remained surrounded by a colorful aura. During this time she had absorbed an immense amount of energy, but it was extremely varied and complex. The celestial fox demon emperor floated down and landed beside Mei Gongxi. The white tiger demon emperor followed closely behind, standing next to him, keeping a close watch. The celestial fox demon emperor spoke in a deep voice. "She has received the ancestral court's baptism and absorbed a significant amount of energy. However, the energy is mixed, and it will take time for it to fully integrate with her. But the ancestral court cannot wait. White Tiger, would you agree to make a promise on her behalf?" The white tiger demon emperor's heart stirred. He understood that this was the celestial fox demon emperor indicating his willingness to compromise, which meant he might agree to Mei Gongxi successfully taking up her post as the ruler of Kali City. The celestial fox demon emperor said, "If she becomes the ruler of Kali City in the future, she must not, in any form, oppose the ancestral court. She must obey the orders of the council and follow its commands. Otherwise, you must personally destroy her, even if she becomes an emperor in the future." The white tiger demon emperor narrowed his eyes slightly. "I don't know what you're so worried about. Yes, she has human blood in her veins, but don't forget, she also carries the blood of the peacock demons in my bloodline, which is far stronger than the human bloodline. Besides, as the ruler of Kali City and the leader of the peacock demons, the honor that brings her is immense. She probably just wants to protect the humans so they don't suffer too much. Isn't that understandable?" The celestial fox demon emperor's eyes gleamed coldly. "Will you agree or not? Also, after this, you must accompany me to Kali City. The human settlements there cannot be allowed to remain." A surge of murderous intent filled the white tiger demon emperor. "Are you trying to sever the ties between me and her?" The celestial fox demon emperor's gaze did not falter in the slightest. Though he had no combat strength to speak of, his aura surged at this moment, so intense that it even suppressed the imposing presence of the white tiger demon emperor. "White Tiger, do you know why I've been obstructing her? While I cannot peer into the secrets of heaven, I do control destiny. Her fate is unlike any other. It's entirely unique. In her I see calamity, not her own, but one that could befall the demon continent. This calamity may or may not strike. If it does strike, it could be infinitesimally small, but it could also be unimaginably massive. In fact, it could destroy the continent altogether. From my perspective, not only should she not be allowed to pass her evaluation, but she should not be allowed to live. I believe that any such uncertainty must be smothered in its cradle. But I also sense that her death could be the cause of an even greater disaster. That's why I've been so hesitant. Also, don't underestimate humans just because they seem weak. In terms of intelligence, they surpass all other species. Even as slaves, their intelligence has awakened, and they have slowly gained influence, even reaching the level of demon kings. This is a threat. Eliminating humans is something we must do for the ancestral court and for our races. If you don't agree to these two conditions, then even if she passes this test, I will find a way to destroy her in the future." Even if I don't take her life, I will bury her future. You know I can do it." Seeing the sinister glint in the celestial fox demon emperor's eyes and hearing his words, the white tiger demon emperor frowned deeply, but the killing intent in his eyes gradually faded. "Are they really that much trouble?" The celestial fox demon emperor nodded. "They are more troublesome than you imagine." The white tiger demon emperor responded coldly. "Humans are nothing but ants. Agreeing with you won't hurt, but you must promise not to target her again in the future." The celestial fox demon emperor visibly relaxed upon hearing his agreement. In the ancestral court, the only one with a solid reason to support Mei Gongzi unconditionally was the white tiger demon emperor. With these two conditions in place, Mei Gongzi's potential threat would be significantly reduced. No matter how great her talent, becoming an emperor would not be something that could happen overnight. Moreover, whether she could achieve it at all was uncertain. After all, there was no vacant position on the Phelan planet, and no matter how talented she was, without the fall of an emperor, her chances of forcibly becoming one were almost non-existent. Without becoming an emperor, the threat she posed would remain limited. The white tiger demon emperor had a different mindset. As long as his granddaughter became the ruler of Kali City and also controlled the peacock demon clan, what did it matter if on the surface she had nothing to do with him? Humans were just ants. So long as his daughter and granddaughter were safe, who cared if the world was in chaos? His granddaughter was already the leader of the peacock demon clan. She should have distanced herself from humans anyway. The celestial fox demon emperor said in a deep voice, "There's no time to lose. I'll help her become a great demon king now, so she can assist us in locking onto that spatial plane." In truth, he was extremely anxious inside. Otherwise, he wouldn't have agreed so easily to let Mei Gongzi succeed in her promotion, regardless of the conditions. A threat like Mei Gongzi was best eliminated. But now there was no choice. This involved the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, the fortune that the Celestial Fox clan had accumulated over countless years, and the suppression of misfortune. If something went wrong here, it would shake the very foundation of the Celestial Fox clan. The Celestial Fox clan weren't adept at combat. They relied on their control over destiny. If their accumulated fortune were disrupted, they would be the first to suffer a terrifying backlash, one that could threaten the very existence of the Celestial Fox clan. Faced with such enormous and immediate risks, how could he worry about the potential threat posed by Mei Gongzi? Hearing the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's words, the White Tiger Demon Emperor's eyes lit up. While the Celestial Fox clan might not excel in combat in terms of support, they were unmatched on the demon continent. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor raised his right hand and made a pressing motion towards Mei Gongzi. Instantly, a soft white glow enveloped her delicate body. Giant, pure white foxtails emerged, wrapping around Mei Gongzi's body like a cloak, enveloping her completely. Immediately, the colorful light surrounding Mei Gongzi began to undergo a strange transformation. The originally mixed colors started to separate, the impurities quickly fading away, leaving only pure light. It transformed into a milky white glow that continuously flowed into Mei Gongzi's body. The White Tiger Demon Emperor could tell that this was the purest energy, filtered and refined. Along with the nine-tailed blessing, it was the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor temporarily lending his own fortune to Mei Gongzi. This was the essence of the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's power. Even the White Tiger Demon Emperor couldn't help but feel a bit envious of his granddaughter. If this were used on himself, his strength might increase by a few degrees. Of course, the toll it took on the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was significant. Sensing that the third wave of lightning outside had been cleared, Tang San couldn't help but secretly admire the strength of these emperors. To withstand such a terrifying 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation with such ease, and to disperse it so smoothly, these emperors were indeed powerful. Unfortunately for them, they didn't realize that because they hadn't truly locked onto him as their target, the tribulation had only just begun. It wasn't even the official tribulation yet. At this moment, the turbulent power of Tang San's bloodline was gradually calming down. The yin-yang energy, which had been red and blue, was now transforming into black and white. The black and white streams surged into a yin-yang diagram, settling quietly within Tang San's bloodline imprint, which had now forcefully taken the central position. Yes, it had pushed all the other imprints to the periphery and positioned itself firmly at the center of his dantian. A cluster of crystalline blue-silver emperor grass shimmered against the backdrop of the black and white yin-yang diagram, causing Tang San to feel a fleeting sense of déjà vu. He felt as if he had returned to his past life, to the moment when his blue-silver grass martial spirit had first awakened. This new transcendent bloodline was finally about to take form. The yin-yang energy had now stabilized, allowing Tang San to access the primordial chaos energy, the very first form of energy from the dawn of creation. After all, the birth of yin and yang preceded the birth of everything in the universe. Each plane had its own particular process through which it was formed, but there was something all planes had in common. At the beginning of their formation, they had to absorb energy stemming from the most fundamental source of the universe. This was what allowed them to exist and evolve. This energy was precisely the primordial chaos energy. When Tang San's transcendent bloodline took form, it attracted a minute amount of this primordial chaos energy. The nourishment it provided to his body was almost instantaneous, pushing all 9 of his bloodline imprints beyond the peak of the 9th order and initiating the evolution of his body. Why did the 9 heavens and 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation come? It was because the threat posed by Tang San was too great. It threatened the very existence of the plane. And why was that? It was because this breath of primordial chaos energy stemmed from the very core of the plane. For Tang San, absorbing it was immensely beneficial, completely unlocking the connection between his past and present lives. But for the plane, it was a depletion. Not only was he an individual entity with his own divine consciousness, but that divine consciousness actually came from a different plane. Once Tang San became a god, it would be almost impossible for the plane to do anything to him, and that chaos energy could be lost forever. However, the tribulation could now only rage impotently. With the emperors blocking it and the space-time lighthouse isolating him, it couldn't lock onto Tang San. It could only watch helplessly as he condensed the new imprint, the Chaos Blue-Silver Emperor. The chaos energy wasn't so easily absorbed. It had now condensed into a milky white droplet, rolling gently on a blade of Blue-Silver Emperor. Tang San's face showed a faint smile. He had succeeded in the first step. The 9 imprints began to rotate, allowing his body to be fully nourished by the yin-yang energy, and each imprint to merge with it. The most terrifying aspect of the yin-yang energy was its ability to act upon any bloodline imprint. Tang San's Chaos Blue-Silver Emperor now served as the central commander. Its combat abilities had disappeared after forming into a transcendent bloodline, and it was now an entirely supportive power. Yet the joy that this supportive ability brought to Tang San far outweighed its former combat prowess. Its supportive ability was fusion. It could fuse the power of any bloodlines, and as long as Tang San's body could withstand it, empowering the fused bloodline with potent yin-yang energy. For instance, if the Lion-Tiger transformation and the Golden Armor transformation were brought together, they would unleash terrifying power. The same applied to other bloodlines, and as long as Tang San's body could bear it, multiple bloodline fusions were entirely possible. Naturally, the fusion of compatible bloodlines would result in even more formidable power. As the yin-yang energy nourished him, Tang San's entire aura began to change, and despite the space-time lighthouse stabilizing him, his aura was becoming increasingly harder to suppress. But Tang San wasn't worried at all. The lightning tribulation was something he had to endure. At his current level, without the baptism of a powerful tribulation, it would be impossible to achieve a true transformation. So, although the tribulation possessed immense destructive power, it was also a double-edged sword. While it brought destruction, it also offered him tremendous benefits. However, now was not the best time to endure the tribulation. He was still waiting for another objective to be achieved. Above the ancestral court, the tribulation clouds became increasingly restless, as if sensing something. The originally purple lightning began to take on a tinge of gold. When that hint of gold appeared, the faces of the emperors grew even more solemn. They felt the purest power of destruction. With this pure destructive energy looming overhead, it seemed as if the entire world was on the brink of annihilation. They could even sense the madness and fury emanating from the plane itself. Even though, at their level, they had some measure of independence from the plane, they were still its protectors. At this moment, the plane's fury was unmistakable, signifying that it was facing an enormous crisis. This crisis stemmed from the being currently undergoing the tribulation. This being was undoubtedly reckless to the extreme. Even if they succeeded in the tribulation, did they really think the emperors would let them go? Yet this was the path they had chosen, and it summoned an unprecedented, terrifying tribulation. Is Celestial Fox ready? The voice of the sun-born nymph emperor echoed with a ripple of divine consciousness. At that moment, a beam of silver light shot up from the ancestral court council, illuminating the entire ancestral court and piercing through the darkness with a single ray of light. The silver light was ethereal, and a strange spatial fluctuation silently emerged. It was a massive celestial pillar. Though only an illusory shadow, it brought about miraculous spatial changes. At the top of the celestial pillar stood a breathtakingly beautiful young girl in a silver dress with her eyes closed. Her entire body was enveloped in the swirling silver light. Around her, countless spatial doors layered upon each other. Endless layers of space were unfolding, like the countless facets of a diamond, reflecting all the brilliance onto her. All the demon emperors had seen Mei Gongxi's display of godly power before, but the nymph emperors hadn't. Yet they couldn't help but feel a strange sense of familiarity. This girl was emanating such intense spatial fluctuations that it almost felt as if the peacock demon emperor of old had returned. Hey, isn't that? The sun-born nymph emperor narrowed his eyes, the crimson light in them dimming slightly. He revealed his humanoid form. This nymph emperor was entirely crimson, and appeared as a young man with handsome features. He had a somewhat feminine appearance despite his masculine abilities, exuding a sense of delicacy. Is this the little girl who won the ancestral court elite competition? How is she a great demon king? His senses were incredibly sharp, and he instantly felt the intensity of Mei Gongxi's bloodline. How long has it been? She was only at the 9th order when she participated in the ancestral court elite tournament, and now she was a great demon king? Such rapid progress had never been seen in the history of the ancestral court. The voice of the celestial fox demon emperor came through. To ensure she has sufficient control over space, I raised her cultivation to the 11th order. There's no time to waste. Please continue to resist the tribulation. We must immediately find that person. As he spoke, he had already moved to Mei Gongxi's side. The celestial plume! The celestial fox demon emperor said in a deep voice. Mei Gongxi glanced at him, fully aware of the situation outside by now. In her opened eyes, rings of silver light continued to contract inward, an effect of her recent breakthrough to the level of Great Demon King, as she had not yet fully stabilized her cultivation. With the assistance of the celestial fox demon emperor, the vast and chaotic energy she had absorbed earlier had now completely merged with her in a short time. In a twist of fate, she had directly broken through to the level of Great Demon King. Although she hadn't yet fully comprehended the extent of her new power at this level, the biggest change she noticed was in her perception. It was as if her senses could now exist in countless spaces, her divine consciousness continuously traversing through them, even sensing changes in distant spaces. Anything connected to her could be sensed through these spatial links. For instance, she could clearly sense his aura within the dazzlingly golden celestial fox sacred mountain. With a single thought, the celestial plume appeared in Mei Gongxi's hand. As she gazed at the dozen or so emperors present, her heart was filled with awe. This was her first time witnessing so many emperors acting together. It wasn't just her. Even the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor was witnessing such a scene for the first time. On regular days, the emperors almost never gathered together. They were usually secluded within their own sacred mountains or cities. If not for the arrival of this terrifying tribulation, the emperors would never have appeared all at once. Now, apart from the Crystal Demon Emperor, all the emperors were here. Follow me. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor waved his sleeve, a ball of white light enveloping both him and Mei Gongxi, carrying them toward the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain. At that moment, Mei Gongxi's heart began to race, and she instinctively started to feel a bit nervous. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor could sense her nervousness, but he didn't think much of it. Facing such a situation, being nervous was only natural. He didn't know that Mei Gongxi's nervousness wasn't due to the situation they were facing, but because the scene before her was just too familiar. And this familiarity wasn't because she had seen it before, but because it had been described to her in painstaking detail. When you reach the final stage, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor will certainly make things difficult for you. bringing out his trump card against you. But in front of so many emperors, he won't be able to act directly against you. I expect he'll use the power of the ancestral court against you, but that will take some time. When he begins, you must immediately activate the Azura sword. No matter where I am, I'll be able to sense it, and that's when I'll make my move. I'll undergo the tribulation beneath the celestial fox sacred mountain. Don't ask how I'm getting there. I have my ways. Once I summon the tribulation, the emperors will definitely intervene to protect the ancestral court from being destroyed. At that moment, the celestial fox demon emperor won't be able to focus on you. You must protect yourself, and if necessary, use the power of the Azura sword. If the pressure becomes too much, activate the Azura sword again. If you reach a point where your life is in danger, use it a third time. I'll be there by your side ensuring your safety. If everything goes well, you probably won't need to use the Azura sword those last 2 times. The celestial fox demon emperor might seek your help in controlling space to locate me, since he won't be able to pinpoint my position. At that point, you can try to negotiate with him, asking him to help you ascend to the 11th order. You're already near the peak of the 10th, and while the ancestral court is full of dangers, there are also opportunities. If you can use this chance to advance to Great Demon King, that will be ideal. If not, it's fine. When the celestial fox demon emperor instructs you on what to do, just follow his lead. He'll likely bring you within the bounds of the celestial fox sacred mountain and ask you to use your spatial powers to search for me. Do as he says and leave the rest to me. Tang San's words still echoed in her ears, and everything happening now was a complete confirmation of what he had predicted. Mei Gongzi clearly remembered how she had argued with him back then, insisting that the celestial fox demon emperor would never help her advance her cultivation. And yet, now she was a great demon king. The terrifying tribulation in the sky made it hard for Mei Gongzi to even breathe. This oppressive force directly targeted her divine consciousness, and not even the celestial fox demon emperor's power could shield her from it. The celestial fox sacred mountain was trembling continuously. While some of the tremors came from internal forces, most were due to the external pressure of the lightning tribulation. The direct suppression of the tribulation on their divine consciousness was overwhelming, and many members of the celestial fox clan could hardly endure it. All celestial foxes, leave the sacred mountain immediately. The voice of the celestial fox demon emperor echoed from the sky. At the same time, the image of the 9-tailed celestial fox appeared once again in the sky. The celestial fox demon emperor's divine consciousness enveloped the area, bestowing the celestial fox clan with his protection, allowing them to swiftly retreat to safety. Mei Gongzi stood beside the celestial fox demon emperor, holding the celestial plume in her hand, while the white tiger demon emperor had also come along, still feeling somewhat uneasy about the celestial fox demon emperor. The celestial fox demon emperor didn't look at the white tiger demon emperor. He could feel that the aura beneath the celestial fox sacred mountain was gradually stabilizing, yet the tribulation in the sky grew increasingly violent. He turned to Mei Gongzi and said, "Use the celestial plume to guide you and sense the spatial fluctuations. In a moment, I will direct your divine consciousness to observe a certain location. All you need to do is lock onto the spatial coordinates of that place. Understand?"
Mei Gongzi nodded.
Understood. White light surged in the celestial fox demon emperor's eyes as he fully unleashed his divine consciousness, bringing Mei Gongzi with him as they suddenly plunged into the celestial fox sacred mountain. The first thing Mei Gongzi sensed was the overwhelming fortune. Even though she couldn't see it directly or control it like a celestial fox could, the celestial plume's ability to see the future allowed her to sense the shifts in fortune. Quickly passing through the layers of fortune, she suddenly felt a terrifying aura, a sense of oppression that seemed to stem directly from destiny itself. Everything before her turned pitch black, and within that darkness, it felt as though countless invisible beasts were trying to devour her. White light surged from the celestial fox demon emperor, and behind him, the shadow of the 9-tailed celestial fox flickered as its tails spread out. The surging and shifting fortune dispelled and suppressed the overwhelming feeling. Only then did Mei Gongzi's perception begin to clear. A golden orb of light appeared within her vision. The golden orb seemed to rapidly expand, as though it were becoming a world of its own, but this world was incredibly illusory. That's the source of the disaster. Use the celestial plume to lock onto its spatial coordinates, the celestial fox demon emperor said, stepping back slightly. Mei Gongzi nodded, raising her right hand and slowly waving the celestial plume. The 3 silver eyes within it flickered with strange light, and the power of space began to surge rapidly. In Mei Gongzi's perception, countless silver lines appeared within the dark space, crisscrossing each other, each line representing a division of space. The dense web of spatial lines overlapped and intertwined, forming the most complex spatial structure she had ever encountered. As the celestial plume waved, these silver spatial lines gradually became visible, encircling the golden world at the center. The celestial fox demon emperor's eyes lit up as he saw the spatial lines. Indeed, finding the hidden space required a proper master of space. Each line represented a fold in space, and with such a complex web of spatial folds, it was no wonder that his divine consciousness could not locate the true position of the Hell Garden. Mei Gongzi infused some power into the celestial plume. Like unraveling a silk cocoon, she picked up a spatial line, and with a surge of silver light, merged this spatial line with the original space, dissolving that fold in space. Then came the second and the third lines. One by one, the silver spatial lines were quickly unraveled by her. However, there were simply too many of these silver spatial lines, and it was clear that dissolving them all would take some time. Meanwhile, the thunder in the sky above the ancestral court showed no signs of waiting. The purple lightning, now tinged with golden halos, descended from the heavens once more. The emperors once again struggled to resist the lightning. However, none of them were willing to destroy the tribulation clouds. Simply resisting the tribulation only drained their own strength, but attacking the clouds would consume their very essence. For any living being, this was something extremely precious, directly tied to their lifespan and cultivation limits. The celestial fox demon emperor's lips moved as if to urge her on, but he held back. Mei Gongzi had just ascended to the 11th order, and for her to mend space demonstrated an exceptionally deep understanding of spatial forces. As an emperor, how could he not have some understanding of space? Yet, even with his level of cultivation, the celestial fox demon emperor knew he couldn't mend space the way she was doing now. So all he could do was wait as Mei Gongzi continued to align the spatial folds. Mei Gongzi, on the other hand, felt something profoundly strange. As she merged these spatial lines, her understanding of space deepened. It felt as if this task had been specially designed for her, allowing her to fully integrate and master her newly acquired cultivation as a great demon king. Is this part of his plan too? He must be in that golden-filled dimension right now. Even though she was one of the planners and fully understood the plan, she still couldn't help but feel a sense of incredulity at this moment. Inside the Hell Garden, as he sat cross-legged on the heavenly bloom, feeling the changes outside, the smile on Tang San's face grew even more pronounced. Since Mei Gongzi hadn't triggered the Azura sword a second time, he knew she was safe. Otherwise, he would have had no choice but to activate another trump card, accelerating everything. Of course, that wasn't an ideal choice, as it would greatly increase the risk of his tribulation. At this moment, proceeding step by step with everything under control was the most ideal situation. Right now, the yin-yang energy within him was continuously nourishing his 9 imprints. The chaos blue-silver emperor at the center was becoming increasingly luminous, and the drop of chaos energy that had condensed into a water droplet was becoming more and more crystalline. This chaos energy was a rare treasure that only a plane could produce, and he absolutely couldn't waste it. It would be a crucial asset for his upcoming tribulation. The space-time lighthouse shimmered with a faint halo, floating before him. The spatial lines that Mei Gongzi and the celestial fox demon emperor were dealing with outside were actually a special application of the space-time lighthouse, throwing space and time into disarray. The core of the space-time lighthouse was the space-time beacon, a primeval mineral that had existed for countless ages and carried innumerable traces of the spaces it crossed, an inestimable amount of mixed energies. When these energies were released without locking onto specific coordinates, this was the effect: an enormous spatial disturbance that was beyond even the abilities of a first-class god to contain. If Tang San were to regain his god-king cultivation, he could use the space-time lighthouse to reach any plane he had visited before. Small planes like the Hell Garden could be directly brought under his control, functioning like a personal spatial storage device. Moreover, even through this disordered space-time, the space-time lighthouse allowed Tang San to know his own time and place and what was around him. Although he couldn't see Mei Gongzi, he could sense the aura of the celestial plume and know that she was mending the space with it, allowing him to gauge her current state. The 9 heavens and 10 earths' great annihilation tribulation couldn't be directly withstood. That would be certain death. But with the emperors outside helping him hold off the tribulation for a while, its power would be somewhat weakened. And even if the lightning tribulation above the ancestral court was dispersed, it would still drain some of the court's fortune. The celestial fox sacred mountain was completely destabilized now, and the Hell Garden had been shifted out of its original position by Tang San. It could no longer stabilize the celestial fox sacred mountain, which meant that there was no counterbalance to that massive amount of fortune. The dissipation of some of the fortune of the demon and nymph clans was beneficial for the other races, and even for the Phelan planet as a whole. As Mei Gongzi continued to mend the spatial rifts, she gradually noticed a change in the chaotic spatial lines before her. Although they remained chaotic, she could sense that the lines were deliberately avoiding her, as if to prevent her from getting lost in space. It felt as if they were almost welcoming toward her. She was absolutely certain that these spatial lines were not something natural, and knowing Tang San's abilities, she believed that it was not a power belonging to this plane, which meant it shouldn't naturally be compatible with the celestial plume. With that in mind, it was immediately apparent to her why this phenomenon was occurring. She couldn't communicate with Tang San at the moment, but she was more than clever enough to understand what he meant to tell her. Sensing the changes in the spatial lines, she began to accelerate the process of merging the space folds. Initially, she had been cautiously probing from the outermost edges, which was the safest approach but also the slowest. Now, however, she began to delve deeper, and the celestial plume in her hand moved faster, increasing the speed of the merger. The celestial fox demon emperor had been closely observing her actions, and when he saw this, he couldn't help but show a look of appreciation. This girl truly deserved her reputation as the most outstanding genius of her generation. Despite having reached the level of Great Demon King just minutes before, her understanding of spatial power was rapidly advancing. What had begun as a somewhat clumsy attempt at merging the spatial lines had quickly become more practiced, and she even seemed to achieve a harmonious flow. The celestial fox demon emperor also sensed that these spatial lines didn't seem to be rejecting Mei Gongzi, which was completely different from his own experience when probing with his divine consciousness. But he had no reason to find this odd. After all, Mei Gongzi had a space attribute bloodline, and it made sense that she wouldn't be rejected by space. Mei Gongzi gracefully moved through the complex spatial lines, and her silver gown fluttered gently in the air, making her look like a dancing fairy. The celestial plume in her hand emitted a gentle glow, causing the spatial lines to merge rapidly, gradually opening a passage toward the Golden Hell Garden. A hint of joy finally appeared on the celestial fox demon emperor's face. This girl was indeed clever. She didn't need to dissolve all the spatial lines. As long as she could open a passage and lock onto the location of the Hell Garden, his divine consciousness would be able to penetrate and suppress the being undergoing the tribulation. He followed closely behind Mei Gongzi. The surrounding spatial lines appeared somewhat bizarre. Mei Gongzi's celestial dance grew faster, causing the spatial lines to merge seamlessly into the space wherever she moved, creating an almost surreal effect. Outside, the roar of the lightning tribulation resounded once again. It was the 6th time already. The 6th strike had descended. Undoubtedly, the emperors were enduring great pain in resisting it, as they had to simultaneously protect the ancestral court, ensuring that the tribulation didn't strike it. After this incident, the celestial fox demon emperor knew he would likely be in some trouble as well. As the overseer of the ancestral court, he was unquestionably responsible for such an issue arising. Gradually, the spatial lines were dissolved, and the Golden Hell Garden began to appear more clearly. At this moment, Mei Gongzi began to feel a bit anxious. She knew that Tang San should be undergoing his tribulation within that golden space. If the celestial fox demon emperor managed to fully open the space and lock onto that plane, then all of Tang San's efforts would be for nothing. He had previously instructed her to follow the celestial fox demon emperor's orders, but now that it had come to this, there was still no sign of Tang San summoning her away or any other backup plan. What should she do? Instinctively, she began to slow down a bit. But the celestial fox demon emperor immediately sensed this. A surge of powerful fortune enveloped Mei Gongzi, making her feel as if her vitality and spirit had been instantly elevated to their peak. The celestial fox demon emperor's divine consciousness reverberated in Mei Gongzi's mind. Move as fast as you can. Mei Gongzi's mind raced. She knew she couldn't deliberately delay. If she did, the celestial fox demon emperor would immediately become suspicious of her. Once that happened, her situation would truly become problematic, and she would also cause trouble for Tang San. Since Tang San hadn't instructed her to delay and had only told her to follow the celestial fox demon emperor's instructions, he had a way to handle this. Everything should be within his expectations. Thinking this through, Mei Gongzi realized that all she could do now was place absolute trust in Tang San and entrust everything to him. She then resumed her previous speed, but did not accelerate further. She maintained a steady pace as she pressed forward. The celestial fox demon emperor began to feel more favorably toward Mei Gongzi. Since he considered himself the most intelligent of the demons, he naturally preferred dealing with clever individuals. A junior like Mei Gongzi, with her astonishing comprehension, naturally gained his approval. If she could truly merge with the celestial plume and was willing to use it to see into the future for the ancestral court, there was even the possibility of supporting her ascent to emperor. After all, her fortune's impact on the ancestral court could be significant or it could be negligible, but if he could control her, it would be undoubtedly positive either way. Of course, the current crisis needed to be resolved first. The Hell Garden could not be allowed to fall into ruin. The accumulated misfortune there served as the counterbalance to the fortune of the celestial fox sacred mountain. It was fundamental to the ancestral court and, most importantly, to the celestial fox clan. Finally, the Hell Garden drew near. As the spatial lines ahead thinned and the small plain came into view, the celestial fox demon emperor's eyes turned icy cold. No matter who was undergoing the tribulation, and no matter which emperor stood behind them, he was determined to tear them to pieces. As the last spatial line merged, the celestial fox demon emperor, not waiting for Mei Gongzi to advance further, transformed into a stream of light and shot into the Hell Garden. Simultaneously, he unleashed his full divine consciousness, sweeping over the entire Hell Garden plain. The Hell Garden had completely changed by now. The large flowers, whether cool-toned or warm-toned, seemed to have fallen into a deep slumber, appearing half-withered. Only the central heavenly bloom had undergone a dramatic transformation. The once pure white flower had turned into a radiant golden bloom. The lotus seeds that had been nestled in the heart of the flower were now floating in the air, revolving around the golden flower. At the center of the golden flower was an even more intense and brilliant golden radiance, making it impossible to see what lay within. The celestial fox demon emperor's divine consciousness was exceedingly powerful. As soon as he entered the Hell Garden, it swept over the entire area, enveloping it completely and momentarily isolating it from the outside world. In the ancestral court, the thickening tribulation clouds in the sky suddenly paused, and the seventh strike, which had been on the verge of descending, suddenly hesitated, as if it had lost its target. In the direction of the celestial fox sacred mountain, the golden light dimmed, and it seemed as though everything was beginning to return to normal. Nevertheless, the tribulation clouds above the ancestral court did not disperse. They remained as they were. The emperors instinctively turned their gaze toward the celestial fox sacred mountain. The white tiger demon emperor couldn't enter the celestial fox sacred mountain, so he waited outside. Previously, the celestial fox demon emperor had been unable to suppress it alone. Now that he had gone in with Mei Gongzi and succeeded, there was no doubt that Mei Gongzi had played a crucial role. A knowing smile spread across the white tiger demon emperor's face. This success undoubtedly secured Mei Gongzi's future. The other emperors also breathed a sigh of relief. The lightning tribulation had been terrifying. During the sixth strike, it had taken the combined strength of 6 emperors to barely dissipate it. Even now, those 6 emperors still had sparks of electricity flickering on their bodies as they worked to absorb the remnants. The damage to their essence had been severe, and none of them could afford to be careless. Just as the celestial fox demon emperor was about to use his divine consciousness to obliterate the figure occupying the heavenly bloom and undergoing the tribulation, a calm and unhurried voice suddenly rang out. The celestial fox demon emperor froze for a moment. Even in the face of his divine consciousness, The other party remained so calm and composed. Lights flickered as Mei Gongzi entered the Hell Garden, stopping beside the celestial fox demon emperor. When she saw the golden flower, she couldn't help but feel a surge of shock in her heart. She had always known that Tang San's tribulation would be incredibly difficult, but she hadn't known how he would choose to face it. Now, everything before her, including the previous spatial lines, demonstrated Tang San's profound foundation and thorough preparations. She also heard the words, "You're here." The voice was indistinguishable as male or female, but she knew it was Tang San. His calm tone seemed to reassure her that everything was fine. "Who are you? Who instructed you to undergo your tribulation here?" The celestial fox demon emperor's voice was as cold as ice. He truly despised this person undergoing the tribulation. He wasn't even sure if the Hell Garden could ever return to normal after dealing with them. His celestial fox sacred mountain had already become unstable, and who knew how long it would take to restore it? "I am the future of the Phelan planet," said the person seated at the heart of the heavenly bloom. "The future of the Phelan planet? What nonsense are you spouting?" The celestial fox demon emperor hadn't expected such a response. "The demon races, the nymph races, and your celestial fox clan have selfishly concentrated the planet's fortune here, sealing it off. This has caused other races on the planet to suffer from rampant misfortune, destabilizing the plane. Do you understand the consequences of this?" The celestial fox demon emperor was momentarily stunned by these words. This person who had intruded into the Hell Garden, forcibly undergoing their tribulation and bringing a threat to the entire ancestral court, had the audacity to question him? He couldn't help but laugh angrily. "You are questioning me? You came here to destroy the fortune my clan has accumulated over the years, and yet you dare to speak so righteously." His powerful divine consciousness surged wildly toward the heavenly bloom. He had no intention of wasting words. He still didn't fully understand the extent of the damage to the Hell Garden, and was eager to regain control and restore everything to normal. But at that moment a cold voice rang out. "Why shouldn't I question you?" Immediately a crystalline light split from the golden glow, floating in midair. A mighty divine consciousness burst forth, completely blocking the celestial fox demon emperor's own consciousness. As the figure gradually solidified, the celestial fox demon emperor's face changed drastically. "You? It's you." Mei Gongzi focused her gaze and saw a woman fully clad in crystal armor. The woman's age was indiscernible as her face was somewhat blurred, but the aura she exuded was as deep as an abyss, as boundless as the cosmos, impossible to grasp. "All this time you've told us how the celestial fox clan guides and controls fortune, stabilizing the welfare of demons and nymphs, making the demon continent the core of the planet. But you never told us the price for this. Why did the tainted yellow sea and the nether blue sea form? Where did most of the immense fortune you gathered go? Why was your celestial fox clan favored the most? And where did the surplus fortune go? It wasn't until I came here that I understood where this fortune had been stored. These lotus seeds, they contain the purest fortune of the entire plane. What exactly do you intend to do with this power?" The celestial fox demon emperor's face turned pale, and for a moment, he was at a loss for words. Although he had guessed that a certain emperor was backing this, he hadn't expected it to be her. The last few times she'd taken a look at her fortune, she was already on the brink of death, her power reduced to a fraction of what it once was, relying on seclusion just to barely survive. The once all-powerful crystal demon emperor should have been a relic of the past. Yet here she was, standing before him, her aura remarkably youthful, as if she was no longer troubled by the limitations of her lifespan. If I recall correctly, during the era of the previous celestial fox demon emperor, this Hell Garden did not exist. The fortune gathered by the celestial fox sacred mountain back then vastly differed from now. At that time, the celestial fox demon emperor truly worked for the prosperity of the entire ancestral court, but everything was based on fairness and reason. However, everything has changed since you took over 1,000 years ago. Listening to the crystal demon emperor's words, the celestial fox demon emperor sneered. "Yes, things have indeed changed. Do you remember how many new emperors have emerged over the past 1,000 years? Why were we able to produce so many emperors? If I hadn't gathered more fortune, would the ancestral court have so many emperors to protect it today? Could the demon continent have become the core of the planet? Gaining something always comes with a cost, and that cost isn't paid by us but by other races. With Phelan Planet's capacity, even if 10,000 or 100,000 years pass, it won't be destroyed. It will merely reach its pinnacle. I have selfish motives, yes. My selfish desire is to elevate the demon continent to become a higher level plane. This would be nothing but beneficial for the demon and nymph clans. By that time we would no longer be bound by our lifespans and could truly become gods. The Crystal Demon Emperor let out a cold laugh and said, "High-sounding words. You can deceive others with that, but not me." The previous Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was one of the lower-ranked emperors, yet now you've become the ruler of the ancestral court. Your selfishness is focused entirely on yourself. Even if you could turn the demon continent into a divine realm, you would be the one in control, wouldn't you? And becoming a divine realm is no easy feat. It would require opposing the will of the universe itself. How much would that cost? The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor said in a deep voice. So you intend to destroy everything? What you're doing now is going against the entire ancestral court. Even if the other emperors were here, who would support you? Who would help you? If the ancestral court is destroyed, it's the fate of the demon and nymph clans that will be ruined. Is that what you want to see? The Crystal Demon Emperor responded calmly. I'm a dragon nearing its end. Let the floodwaters rise for all I care. There's no point in continuing this argument. Let's see if you can stop what's happening before you. As she spoke, she stepped forward in midair, moving toward the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's expression changed. White light flickered around him, and suddenly alternating black and white surrounded his body. Exactly the polar luck domain that Tang San was familiar with. He was not skilled in combat, and now he faced the strongest emperor of the current era, the Crystal Demon Emperor. How could he not be afraid?